bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Final day of campaigning as America is set to decide on their next president.
Candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tour swing states in a final push for what's being described as a neck-and-neck election.
Well, that's as a survey says Britons back Harris, but believe Trump will snatch the keys to the White House.
Fury on farms. The Chancellor defends the inheritance tax raids on agricultural estates, insisting the nation can't afford to let farmers continue passing on their land.
The Prime Minister set to double border force funding as he unveils fast-track justice for people smugglers akin to that used for summer rioters.
The new leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, is expected to appoint her new shadow cabinet later this morning.
Prince of Wales set to arrive in Cape Town for the annual Earthshot Prize today. Cameron Walker is there for us.
Described as Prince William's Super Bowl moment, the future king is also being used as an asset by the British government as a global statesman. He'll be joining Foreign Secretary David Lammy for an audience with the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa.
That's as royal officials look to remove the word empire from the King's honours over colonial links. We'll be debating that later this morning.
And in the sport this morning, the Dutch Dick Dastardly Max Verstappen won the wacky races of the Brazil Grand Prix yesterday. Manchester United drew with Chelsea before their new boss comes in, and Spurs came back from 1 down to beat Aston Villa 4-1.
After a weekend of grey skies, does this new week offer anything brighter for us? Join me later to find out.
Hello there, very good morning to you this Monday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So, welcome back, Isabel.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you.
We should say welcome back to Paul Coix. It was touch and go whether we were going to have you with us this morning, wasn't it?
Oh, I see. Were you talking about the illness or were you talking about the bicycle?
About the bicycle incident.
When was the last time you rode a bike, Eamonn? How many years ago?
Oh, a good few.
I'm thinking...
You never forget, though, right?
Well, it's like riding a bike, apparently. So anyway, so on the way in, because I'd parked quite a way away, and I saw one of those Lime bikes, you know, where you hire the bike, and I thought, I've never done that before, and I thought, well, maybe...
Give it a go.
I'll give it a go. So I didn't know what to do, so I'm thinking, I've probably wasted more time, so I've done the app and everything, and I've got on, and this is the first time I've been on a bike. Honestly, I can't even tell you how. And off I go, and then I realised that the height of the... I don't know whether there's a little motor involved in this, is there? Because it was like this, and I'm like... So I'm going along, this is 5 o'clock in the morning, nobody else around, and I'm like that. And then the saddle was so high, I realised I couldn't actually touch my feet on the ground. I was like on a penny farthing. It was like that. So, and then I'm going along, I think I'll stick on the pavement. I've managed to stop somewhere, and then I'm all... Honestly... I've had quite the morning.
We are very pleased it ended well. Exactly. You drove
like Evel Knievel.
A few red lights to get here.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I think I've broken about 10 laws in the space of about 4 minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Quincy.
From 4 minutes to 1 day to go until America heads to the polls. And former President Barack Obama has taken aim at Donald Trump in a speech at a Democrat rally.
Yes, this is part of the Democrat strategy to persuade voters in swing states to vote for Kamala Harris, with the race being on a knife's edge as she leads in 2 polls but ties in 3 others. Let's take a listen to what former President Obama had to say.
What I cannot understand is why anybody would think Donald Trump will shake things up in a way that is good for you. Donald Trump is not thinking about you. People think Donald Trump will improve the economy is because they watched The Apprentice. The truth is, Donald Trump was given $400 million by his daddy. That's how he got rich. And somehow his company still managed to declare bankruptcy 6 times.
Well, meanwhile, new polling shows that just under half of us are hoping for a Kamala Harris win, but believe that former President Trump will actually win.
Well, let's speak now to the former advisor to both the Bush and Clinton administrations, Steve Gill. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Final day of campaigning and what has been, I mean, just what a roller coaster, frankly. How do you see this playing out today? Because the polls are pretty tight, aren't they?
Well, with a day to go, we think we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. But the way this campaign season has gone, I'm afraid it's a train barreling right at us. There's still going to be more twists and turns in the remaining 24 hours or so. The momentum seems to be on Donald Trump's side. And part of that is because, as we just heard from former President Barack Obama, all of the talk in this campaign from the Kamala Harris side is anti-Trump. She can't even articulate what kind of policies she would do to lower the price of gas, to lower the price of groceries, to protect the southern border from illegal aliens. It's all anti-Trump, and that has carried some support. But they are not offering anything about what she would do different than she's done the last 4 years as vice president.
But, Steve, you say that the momentum is all in Trump's camp, but we're seeing these polls, not only the one in Iowa yesterday, which is traditionally safe Republican state, and obviously Trump has dismissed that, but it has as Harris in the lead there by several points, 4 points, 3 points there. This final poll by the New York Times has Trump behind Kamala Harris in 4 critical swing states, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina and Wisconsin.
Well, first of all, the polls that have the best track record in the last 4 years and last 8 years are showing something decidedly different. In fact, the Iowa poll, the pollster that did that couldn't even clarify on her own poll on the crosstabs which was an R and which was a D, meaning Republican and Democrat. So hers is completely miserable. I look at the last week or two of a campaign. I watch the candidates. I watch their demeanor because they have internal polls that are telling them the reality of what's happening, what numbers are moving, what direction they're moving. And when you look at Kamala Harris, she looks desperate. She looks tired. She looks frantic. And Donald Trump looks like he's having the time of his life. He has the swagger. He has the approach of somebody who looks like a winner. So I tend to watch the demeanor of the candidates. And in that case, Trump is clearly winning.
And how do you see this week going? I mean, it's going to be, it's obviously bonfire week here in the UK, lots of fireworks. I don't know if you're aware of all the traditions around that, but there's going to be fireworks, whatever happens. If Trump wins, that in itself is going to send shockwaves, isn't it? If he loses, he's already said he's not going to accept the results. That will be interesting. Do you think that there could be, I mean, I've heard reports about parts of Washington already boarding up buildings in preparation for some of the backlash. What's the mood there?
Yeah, it's interesting. You're seeing Washington, D.C. boarding up buildings in anticipation of rioting and looting. You're seeing the states like Oregon and Washington State and others where they've seen rioting and looting in the past. But those are blue states, Democrat states and Democrat cities. So they're anticipating that Democrats will go out and burn and loot and riot. You're not seeing that in southern cities across the state and across the country where Republicans tend to accept victory or defeat with the kind of class you would hope. I think it is bizarre, though, that they are claiming on the left that somehow Donald Trump is saying he won't accept the results. He hasn't said that. A lot of what they say Donald Trump says are just things that they make up. And in this case, you actually have Democrat members of Congress saying they're not going to certify the election if Donald Trump wins. You have James Carville, a notoriously famous Democrat who worked for Bill Clinton, calling for armed insurrection if Donald Trump wins. The party calling for riot and looting and burning and not accepting the results are the Democrats.
What should they be calling for, Steve, at this late stage? Is there anything they can beat the drum about which would actually affect how people vote?
I think they should be talking about actually coming together and moving forward. And that's not what we're getting when you're having Democrats call Republicans Nazis and fascists and that we're garbage. That's not the way to bring a country together after the election results are announced. It's interesting, again, at this point, these campaigns have so much detail on the voters that are left, that have not yet decided or haven't yet voted. About 70 million have already voted. That'll be about half of the total number that votes. What they should be talking about that'll make us scratch our head, is they'll be talking about very narrow details to remove or to move those last remaining undecided voters. So if you see ads suddenly talking about left-handed female pool players in the urban areas, it's because that's a narrow demographic that's still up for grabs. So a lot of what they talk about at this stage is usually things that make most of us wonder why they're talking about that. But again, they know that's a group that might still move in their direction.
Well, Steve, thanks for talking to us this morning. Appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll talk before the big result is declared. Thank you very much.
You.
Thanks, my friends. Good morning.
Thank you. Right, to domestic matters, and the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has defended the government's inheritance tax raid on farmers despite major backlash from the agricultural sector.
Well, she's claimed that Britain cannot afford for farmers to pass on their estates without paying inheritance tax. Make of that what you will. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer will today announce a £150 million crackdown on illegal migration, and he'll demand that criminal gangs are fast-tracked through the courts.
Well, let's get the thoughts this morning of James Price, who joins us in the studio. But just before we introduce him, at GB News, we love to hear what you think. So I just want to remind you that every day we'll be running our poll of the day. Today we're asking, do you agree with Nigel Farage that Labour doesn't understand farmers? And we will be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure you do stay tuned for that final result.
Well, James, I would say there's a lot of truth in that Labour doesn't understand farmers, or they're absolutely stupid. What is this phrase, we cannot afford to let farmers die tax-free? We've been doing it all our lives. What difference does it make now?
Yeah, good morning, guys. I mean, I think it's a really poor choice of words from the Chancellor. And I think, unfortunately, it betrays what she and what most of the Labour Party really think about this. You know, I think that for most people, you're born, you work hard, you try and earn things and own things, you want to pass them on, you want to pass on just a better world, and you want to pass on the fruits of your labour to the next generation. It's the most natural thing in the world to want to do that.
Yeah, and to disrupt that, you know, not to have that inheritance business going on. It's just really not understanding the industry and how it works. It doesn't work the same as owning a baked bean factory or a fish finger factory, does it?
Well, in some ways it doesn't, because, you know, little parcels of land, and the way that the English countryside, in particular the British countryside, is so wonderful is it's all parcelled up by hedgerows that are well maintained, and that because, you know, things used to be passed on historically to the firstborn and all these sorts of things, you've got this long history of how rural properties are passed over. But actually, in lots of ways, if you did have that baked bean factory, you should want to be able to pass that on to your children as well. Yeah. And this is the problem. The state comes in at the moment when you lose a parent, you lose the person who's raised you and done all these things for you and sacrificed for you. And the moment of your maximum grief, the taxman comes along and says, right, give me some of that. But and James, if you can't afford to pay it, you've got to sell it off. It's horrible.
I'm not hearing just how much they're going to give. How much would this be worth to the state? How much is the state claiming that it is losing out by?
Well, here's always the problem with these things. Whenever you say this is going to raise us £100 million, £1 billion, whatever it is, that doesn't take into account what people will do to try and get around that. So what Labour are trying to claim is that lots of rich people have bought some land in the first place to get around some inheritance tax.
And even Jeremy Clarkson has admitted that is happening.
That's right.
He's a big defender, isn't he, of what farmers are up to, and that is a sort of loophole that's been exploited by the super rich. Yeah,
well, and that's because they get taxed in all sorts of other ways anyway. And whenever you start taxing people more, people will respond. There's this concept of the Laffer curve, it's called. So the idea is that, obviously, if you tax people 0%, you get zero money. If you tax people 100%, you're not going to get any money anyway, because people will take all their money somewhere else. So whenever you make these kinds of decisions, you affect how people will behave in the economy, and that makes things much less efficient. If you tax people a lot less, they're not spending their time and their money with accountants and clever lawyers working out how to do this stuff. They're using that money productively. They're investing in it. They're building things. And if you see something like Clarkson's farm, by the way, I think it's extraordinary that Labour are picking a fight with farmers at the exact moment the most popular show in Britain in decades is all about how great farming is. You see with Clarkson, he's got the money to buy some of these big, cool machines to make things much more efficient. Well, farmers are not going to be able to do that now, even if the children of them are able to keep the farms, because they're going to have to give all their money to the taxman. And as we see, Labour seems to be wasting that money in other ways.
They give the money to the taxman, or they have to sell the land, of course,
yeah, heartbreaking.
Which is the properties that they have.
According to the Treasury's own official estimates, it will raise £520 million a year by 2030.
520 million a year. That's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. Why are we even picking a fight on this?
This is exactly it. It's the same with the winter fuel payments announcement, right? They said that will raise £1 billion a year, not factoring in all the the pensioners who will die of the cold. We're talking about an overall budget of over £1 trillion. I can't get my head around how big that is. It's an enormous amount of money. But they're picking these kinds of fights. It shows, I think, a lack of political judgment. Maybe they're listening to civil service officials instead. I think that's certainly the case with the winter fuel payments. But it's not going to touch the sides of this thing. When you look at something like the welfare budget, it's 250 billion. It's something like a quarter of that, of which about 150 billion pounds goes on the state pension, which is not means tested. So again, you could find huge areas to have a big fight and save money. We also have this
area whereby all the parties, I say it every day, every week on this programme, that politicians, they don't understand agriculture and there's no votes in it for them, really. So they don't really... Labour has votes in Walsall and in Birmingham and whatever. They don't have votes in the countryside.
But when they will get votes in it is when it impacts food security and prices of food in the supermarket. And this is going to have a detrimental effect on that, arguably.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not only have we seen the wettest September on record, farmers are already under the cosh. Problems in Europe as well, where we see what's been happening with Valencia. Farmers there warning that a lot of the veg and fruit that we import this time of year won't be on our shelves in something like 3 weeks. Have they factored that into all of this?
No.
70,000 farms set to be affected by it.
No, I think it's a fantastic point. The food security point, look at something like the COVID shock. I'm someone who's a big believer in free trade. I think it's a wonderful thing and it makes countries around the world richer. But I think that when you look at the kind of problems we had of supply chains in COVID, if we're not growing more of our own food, that's a big risk. And as you say, food gets more expensive in supermarkets. Where does Labour think food comes from? It doesn't come from the supermarkets. Yeah. And you say there are no votes in it, by the way. Actually, I think there's about 100 fairly rural constituencies that Labour now represent, possibly many of them for the first time, the scale of their victory. And a lot of these Labour backbenchers are already going to be getting it in the neck from farmers who are quite rightly terrified of what's happening.
Well, I just think there's this whole thing, James, where we're supposed to care about the countryside, care about food security, care about being self-sufficient and whatever it is. And here is the prime example. Before they all go and turn up at conferences and say, we are the friend of the farmers, the way they say they're friends of small businesses, which none of them are. It's an interesting one, and we want your views on it today. Let us know what you think.
Really briefly, before we let you go, because I can't let you go without asking about Kemi Badenoch and your reaction to her as the new leader and who you predict to be announced this morning, perhaps in our time, in the shadow cabinet.
I think it's really exciting. I think that there are some concerns that she's now got to work to allay. So there's more of a downside to her than some other candidates, but there's also much more of an upside, where she's an interesting, exciting, new, dynamic kind of character who will grab a lot of headlines, and I think she's got the biggest, boldest reform plan. So if she gets it right, the Conservatives could be in for a really record comeback. Very exciting.
I read somewhere she's going to prioritise loyalty for her shadow cabinet. That wasn't the best choice, was it, necessarily, for Boris Johnson, where it should be on merit, surely. Where do you stand on that, and who do you predict being in the key top jobs? Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. And I think Boris was on the sofa over there a few weeks ago talking about how his lack of ability to keep the parliamentary party together was the big reason why he lost. There's not a lot of Conservative MPs, only 120 odd of them, but of that there are some really talented people. The people I'd look out for, somebody like Alex Burghardt, who's an MP from Essex. I've worked with him. He's one of the smartest people I've ever come across, and I hope he gets a massive job. I think he's great. And there are some other really talented people too.
James, good talking to you. Thanks for your views. Appreciate it. Let's get a weather update. Good morning, Jonathan Vautry.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Welcome to your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We are into a new working week, but we're holding on to the same weather pattern that we've had for several days now. High pressure is still in charge, keeping things fairly fine and settled for all of us, but underneath this high is a widespread blanket of cloud. So it is grey, dull and drab for many of us as we do step out this morning. Most of us will manage to stay dry, but the cloud is thick enough to produce the odd spot of drizzle in places, so do just watch out for that. Temperatures are roughly going to be where we'd expect them to be for the time of year, around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But despite all this widespread cloud, there will be a lucky few that manage to see the sunshine poking through at times. One of those regions certainly is going to be parts of northwestern Scotland, where we've got the greatest chance across parts of the Highlands, maybe just into parts of Argyll and Bute as well for that sunshine to poke through. Western Northern Ireland as well, hopefully seeing a bit of brightness later on in the day, and we've also got the chance as well for western parts of Wales and also for the likes of Cornwall. Southeastern England may also see a little sunshine as well, tapping into some of the winds coming in off continental Europe, where they have much clearer skies around. That cloud, though, elsewhere is going to remain in place as we head throughout Tuesday, lowering at times, so certainly will be misty and murky around coasts and over the hills. There is also the possible of some low-level fog around as we start off on Tuesday morning. Most of us underneath that cloud, seeing temperatures only drop to around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, but where you do have some clear spells overnight, it could be a chillier start to Tuesday with certainly low single figures. As we head throughout the day, then, we'll be chasing after those sunnier breaks. Once again, northern Scotland likely to see some of the best ones, parts of southeast England as well. We will, though, hold off from this rain, so it is again going to stay largely dry across most areas. Temperatures again 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But with a southerly wind kicking in for the middle part of the week, temperatures could just climb up a little bit later on. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, we are off to Cape Town after the break. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, we would. The reason we're there is Prince William's going to be there too, and he'll be hosting his Earthshot Prize Award. Stay tuned for that right after this.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. Every night from 11 p.m.
This is about Pokenomics, which is the often hidden, often controversial economics of beauty. And there's this guy, he's called, here it says Anil Hamamesh, but I think they've missed out the D, so I'm guessing he's Daniel rather than Anil, which he might be, though. He might be, or he might be Anal, for an Anil Hamamesh, maybe. That's his unfortunate name. But basically, he's looked into how ugliness affects people, and it turns out he's discovered that ugly people are less attractive. And that affects them for the rest of their life. Now, where this does get interesting, it is worrying because, of course, this is going to lead to the ugly rights movement, ugly pride march down some dirty back street. And but I remember hearing about this at the time. People born in the UK between March 3rd and March 9th, 1958, were part of this massive survey that was done, which was finding about what would happen to them later in life, and it went through a number of different factors. But I didn't know this. The teachers were also asked to rate their pupils on attractiveness.
Yeah, it's a bit pedo-y.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know whether that would wash now, but it was bone structure and where they're symmetrical, that kind of thing.
You should probably really have a committee of at least half a dozen teachers. Take a sort of standardised view across that. You might get a different point of view from the biology teacher, from the Latin master.
You suggest this to a school, and then we can see if we get it going.
It's interesting, though. I don't know whether you're aware of this, but generally speaking, it is understood within sort of psychological, psychometrics and so on, that IQ is the thing that most closely maps your outcomes, generally speaking. But the idea of beauty is the one that isn't discussed. And there is genuinely a theory that this is actually the great determinant of your life chances.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Prince William set to join young environmentalists taking part in the Earthshot Awards in Cape Town later today.
Yes, so Prince William will start his whistle-stop tour of South Africa by meeting some of the 120 future leaders who'll be taking part in the programme.
Now, this all comes as Spain's King Felipe faced a major public backlash with the Spanish Prime Minister during a visit to a flood-stricken town in Valencia.
So, discussing all matters royal, let's speak to our royal correspondent Cameron Walker, who joins us from South Africa. Good morning to you, Cameron. First of all, on Prince William, imminently arriving, I believe, in Cape Town soon. And this, of course, is his brainchild, the Earthshot Prize. Tell us what we can expect to see from him today.
Good morning, Isabel. Yes, well, it's been described as Prince William's Super Bowl moment, really. And the idea kind of was sparked, actually, when Prince William was on the continent of Africa back in 2018, where he kind of realised, in his words, the kind of power of innovation to solve some of the world's greatest problems. And so the Earthshot was born, and it was inspired by John F. Kennedy's moonshot in the 1960s, where he aspires to solve the seemingly impossible task to put a man on the moon. And Prince William is wanting to solve the seemingly impossible task to solve some of the world's climate problems, finding solutions to repair the planet within this critical decade. And yesterday, GBNews was given very special access to the 15 finalists, Earthshot finalists of this year's at the Vineyard just outside of Cape Town, where I am now. And they're taking part in this networking event, trying to match up those who can help them scale up their small-scale solutions to have a truly global impact. And I was speaking to the chief executive of the Earthshot Prize yesterday, Hannah Jones, and she told me none of this would be possible without Prince William's convening power.
The Prince is an absolute at the heart of everything we do. He is our founder, and he has put so much sweat equity, as we call it in America, into who we are, what we are, how we think about our strategy. He leads us from the front, and what he does is invaluable. We really wouldn't be the platform we are without his guidance and his engagement on a literally week-by-week basis.
Well, you may be wondering, well, is climate change really going to affect me that much at home? But something we talk about a lot on GB News is food prices and the cost of living. And British finalist Naturmetrics, she was at the Vineyard, well, they were at the Vineyard yesterday in Cape Town, and they've come up with a way to help farmers out by using data to help them make better decisions when it comes to increasing crop yields and therefore keeping more money in your pocket, because clearly food will be cheaper in the supermarket. So this is Dimple Patel, the chief executive of Naturmetrics, explaining how it works.
When we look at the challenges that British farmers have been having recently, I mean, putting that data into their hand, being able to tell them how different areas of their land are performing, being able to see the impact of fertilizers and use that to inform land management decisions, actually you're empowering them to make the best decision. But even beyond that, that's data that they could be using for funding and financing for growth, expansion or other issues that they may need funding for.
When Prince William lands in Cape Town in a few hours' time, he's going to be going straight to join some young environmentalists taking part in the Earthshot Prize's first ever Climate Leaders Youth Programme, meeting some of the 120 future leaders supported during the Earthshot Week, developing skills in leadership, storytelling and networking. So it's going to be a very busy week for Prince William, as I said, described as his Super Bowl moment.
And Cameron, can I just ask you, obviously there were unfortunate timing, I suppose, the headlines over the weekend about the money that he and his father make from the duchy, including from public bodies, including charities and other sort of controversial areas where they're making money there. And we also see the reception that the royals have just had in Valencia in Spain, where for the first time we saw members of the public hurling mud at the King and Queen there. Could there be a bit of a frosty reception for Prince William in the light of some of these kind of revelations over the weekend?
Well, Isabel, I think there's certainly an issue when it comes to transparency as to some of the deals done by the Duchy of Cornwall and Lancaster, respectively. They're the kind of property portfolios, the private property portfolios of the King and Prince William that provides them with a private income. I think it's important to point out that a similar Channel 4 Dispatches programme was aired back in 2013 on the Duchy of Cornwall, which was then the then Prince Charles's portfolio. And public opinion didn't really shift that much, and there was certainly no legislation to combat some of the issues issues raised in that. So it'll be interesting to see with the change of government this time in 2024 and if public opinion has shifted when it comes to some of those inner deals and inner workings of the duchy. So I think it's probably too early to say on that one. Of course, Prince William will be focused here very much on the Earthshot Prize, and there's not many British people out here, although the British government is actually using him as a bit of an asset, because Foreign Secretary David Lammy is also joining Prince William in Cape Town, and they're going to be having a meeting with the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, trying to shore up relationships between Britain and South Africa. So I think Prince William, despite perhaps his private income being the headline at the moment, I think he's still very much an asset to Great Britain.
Speak later, Cameron. Thank you very much indeed as we await Prince William. How would you like to win your celebrations on us this year? We're talking about Christmas here.
Yeah, not only do we have £25,025 in cash to spend on a very Merry Christmas, but we also have shopping vouchers and a GB News goodie bag, all to be won in our Great British Giveaway.
So have a go. Go to the break. We're back with Paul. He's got the sport right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. There are delays of up to an hour with some cancelled trains between Wakefield, Westgate and Leeds. It's because of an incident in the West Midlands. The A435 is closed southbound along the Ulster Road at Hollywood in Birmingham after an accident overnight. In Northamptonshire, the A14 is closed westbound from junction 13 at Thlapston to 10 for the A6 at Burton Latimer after an accident. In A6, the A13 is partly blocked westbound by an accident at the Five Bells interchange at Basildon, causing queues from the Pitsea flyover. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking around 20 minutes in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in Hampshire, the A3057 is closed in both directions between Horsebridge Road at King's Somborne and Mottisfont Lane at Kimbridge after an accident last night. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Court cases.
A presidential dropout.
Assassination attempts.
This has been a US election like no other.
And if the polls are correct, it's on a knife edge.
Tomorrow night, stay up with us as the drama unfolds and America decides their next president.
We'll discuss what it means for them, for the world, and for our special relationship. America Decides, tomorrow night from 11.
Only on GB News.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Court cases.
A presidential dropout.
Assassination attempts.
This has been a US election like no other.
And if the polls are correct, it's on a knife edge.
Tomorrow night, stay up with us as the drama unfolds and America decides their next president.
We'll discuss what it means for them, for the world, and for our special relationship. America Decides, tomorrow night from 11.
Only on GB News.
A couple of big games in the Premier League yesterday. Here's Paul to reflect on those.
Manchester United won, Chelsea won. That's where Ruben Amorim is coming in on November the 11th. This is the new Manchester United manager. So the interim manager...
Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Ruud. It's what's going to happen to Ruud van Nistelrooy. So that's
the history. They'll not keep him.
They won't. He was brought in by Erik ten Hag, and he's then been the interim manager. He looks the part. He's
got the results so far. I mean, people can say what they want, but United and Chelsea both would have taken a draw.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it was a fair result yesterday as well. I mean, it was a few squandered chances. It wasn't the greatest game. It probably got going once the penalty went in, but that was late. But anyway, Ruud van Nistelrooy, I mean, he's very well coiffured. He's got a lovely coiffured beard, and I just think he looks really good.
The polo neck...
I like that too.
I think it looks well. Yeah.
Well, have a look. This is him speaking after the game.
Came here to help. As an assistant, as a coach, and in this bit as well as an interim for a short spell, and then again in any capacity willing to help. So in that sense, I'm open for this future. We all will be backing him and helping him to get Manchester United to where we all want it to be.
Going to get the gig or not, we don't know. You don't think he was that as well coiffured as he expected?
Well, yeah, the way you sold it, I was expecting very sort of...
Right, OK.
Anyway.
Well, I'm sorry they let you down in one way.
Well, when he's on the touchline, he looks very well.
I thought he looked...
Jacket.
Coat, the roll neck was working for me. Just looked very managerial. So
he's clocking up the points, which
he is, and he's a number one. He wants to be the manager, so he's saying, I'm happy. I like the way we go. I'm happy to help out. Yeah, obviously it's going to cost you a few quid because it's a job, but I'd be happy to help out. But Amorim will come in with probably 4 or 5 backroom staff. But sometimes you get clubs that will always want someone that knows the club, that will be involved, someone that's got a history within the club, which, of course, Ruud van Nistelrooy has as a Manchester United player. So maybe they'll say, but I think I'm probably with you, Eamonn.
So you got Spurs-Villa yesterday, which you were at, I know.
Yeah.
And, what was it, 1-1 at half-time, was it?
1-0. 1-0 Villa.
1-0
Villa at half-time.
And then to go win 4-1 for Spurs.
I don't know what Ange said, but it obviously, they got the good mate instead of the bad mate. But they played very, very well. On the front foot, very quick. 4 goals against Aston Villa. You can't argue with that. I think Aston Villa, whether they're going to struggle or not, because obviously the Champions League, they're telling everybody, which is fair enough, that they are top of the Champions League at the moment, but they're fighting on all fronts, and it could be a little too much for them.
Too many games.
I think so. But Spurs were very good. And the last time I saw you was, I think, just after Spurs had lost to Crystal Palace, which was last week.
Yeah.
So Crystal Palace, who had not won a game all season, Spurs go and lose to them, and then Spurs go and beat Manchester City, who have not lost a game all season. But that's what Tottenham's all about.
That's what football's all about.
You never know what you're going to get. Never know what you're going to get.
What did we get in the Brazilian Grand Prix?
Well, it was like the wacky races yesterday. It was. Only thing missing was probably Penelope pit stop, and the rain was absolutely treacherous. The conditions were awful, and Max Verstappen. And I think what it showed was the talent of Max Verstappen and how good a driver this man is. 17th place, went pretty much through everybody and ends up winning the race by 19 seconds, which pretty much all that seals, I think, the World Championship. It looked for a while that Lando Norris was going to come back, but then, we read a lot from that race. He goes out in the first corner, Lando Norris ends up coming in 6th, which he's not happy about. Max Verstappen comes through in terrible conditions and wins the race, and I think he's the best driver still. So it just proved what a talent he is.
We say goodbye to Joe Marler at international level in rugby.
Legendary loosehead prop. I think he's going to be okay because he was on the wheel, with Michael McIntyre at the weekend. He's got a career in showbiz ahead of him. Have we got him? I think this is Joe Marler. This is Joe's moving goodbye to international rugby.
I know I've done this loads of times before, so I should have this waxed lyrically, but this is the real one this time, so it's a bit weird. It's time for me to move on. The time has come for me to finally hang up my England rugby boots. Thank you for everything. Goodbye. I bet you thought Coley would go before me. Oh, what am I going to do without Coley?
Look at the beard.
You do better without that beard, mate.
You think so?
He's only 34 years of age. You look 64.
It took 32 years to grow that beard, by the way. I mean, that's some going. But anyway, a legend of the game. He's already retired. Like you mentioned, he'd retired before, came back. And also there was the furore. What did you think about that, about what he said about the hacker?
Well,
this is New Zealand and this is their war,
we played
the tribal
them on
dance that they do, and they
Autumn
lost, of course,
We lost at the last minute, in the last minute of the game. It was devastating. But yeah, he was controversially saying they should ditch the hacker. I mean...
See, I think so much respect is given to the hacker. It's like, because it's the All Blacks, everybody's got to stand back. Everyone's going to... No, you can't walk up to them. You can't do this, you can't do that. It's still a game of rugby. So, therefore, it's... Although Joe Marler then came back afterwards and says, I've now been educated about the hacker and I apologise for what I said.
Right.
It's like, you can't knock the hacker. It's a great thing to see, but surely any other team can do whatever they like around it, don't you think?
Yeah.
I do think. Yeah. I think the New Zealanders, they use it as an advantage.
They do, of course they do.
Intimidatory, so, yeah. There we go. Got to say goodbye to you. And we're back with the papers, the stories making the news in the papers with Dawn Leeson and Chris Akabusi right after this.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Recruiters are warning that if you're not tech savvy, you could be missing out with your CV failing to make it through an AI-powered sifting process. So we've gone from sort of computer says no HR people ticking boxes to AI, right? Is that right?
Yes, well, this applies once you're in the job as well, as a recent report revealed that employees expect AI will manage an average of a third of their tasks within the next 12 months. Well, joining us now to discuss this is Cosmo Curry, founder of Van Kuysen, a leading company in technology recruitment.
Morning, Cosmo.
Morning. Good morning. Well, yeah, thank you for joining us. It's very interesting, isn't it? Because AI is, of course, on the rise, and now in the workplace and in universities and things. Another article came to mind. There was a student recently, I think it was in the news just the other day, that got in trouble for using AI. So there's, you know, for exam purposes and essays. So there's lots of different ways that it can be a good thing and a bad thing. But you're, of course, here to talk about the ways in which AI is a good thing within the workplace.
Absolutely. I mean, AI is here to stay, for sure. And we're seeing this rise of people using it in such a clever format. And the other side of it is also we're seeing people who are using it and during the process of that, they are losing their character. We're losing the actual insight into the individual behind that. And so we've kind of got this kind of mix. And I think AI is phenomenal when you're looking at it from a point of view of optimization, point of view of speed, getting results. But I think we have to remember that, you know, the fundamental of recruitment is people. And we cannot substitute the people, the personal aspect, by replacing that with AI.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers this morning in the company of Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi. Welcome to the programme. Chris, let's start with you, shall we, with the Express. This is on their front page and inside as well. And this is the Chancellor admitting on her morning round yesterday that she was wrong to state during the election campaign that taxes would not have to rise. Finally, some honesty from Rachel Reeves.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is actually quite refreshing to hear a British politician absolutely say, yeah, I got it wrong. I shouldn't have said what I said. And I like what you've said there, finally getting to hear that. She also, when pressed, said that this is it, this is what we require to fix the foundations, and we will not, over the 5 years, be further increasing it. Now, it'll be interesting to see if she keeps to her word with that one. You know, I know that I'm the sort of demographic that will be adversely affected. I am thinking about the...
What, you're breathing, basically?
Well, I mean, they had to do something. Whether there was a £22 billion black hole or not is out to lunch. The OBR says it was actually 9.8. Rachel Reeves says she didn't know. We were discussing in the green room. Well, you guys were discussing about the black hole in here way before she got to say her piece. So, you know, but it is a tax that is going to affect growth. You know, they want to be the party of growth, but it's going to affect growth. I mean, if you are a young person thinking about starting a business, would you start one now in the current climate? If you're an SME who basically 6% of our revenues are generated by SMEs, would you be thinking about employing new people at this moment in time? Would you, if you have made a few bob, would you think about being an angel investor at this moment in time? I think people are going to be holding back and thinking about what to do.
Well, I'm just looking at the words of Sir James Dyson, of course, one of our best entrepreneurs, and he's on the front of the Times this morning saying that the budget has been spiteful and anti-aspiration, and that seems to be the assessment of those sorts of people, business entrepreneurs.
Many of whom have already left the country. We had a Pimlico plumber chap already leave, gone to Spain, hasn't he? And, you know, Rachel Reeves saying, well, OK, I might have got it a bit wrong. This is just like within 7 days of her saying my budget will match the greatest economic moments in Labour history. I mean, so she changes her tune literally on an hourly basis. And I think there is Dyson saying that there's I think this is a politics of envy involved in a lot of this as well. Certainly with things like the farming tax, they seem to assume that everybody with land in this country is landed gentry. Many of these people are just ordinary farmers. Most farms in this country are above £2 million because that is the buildings, the agricultural equipment. So to pay the increased taxes they're going to face, they're going to have to sell those bits of farms off. We're already at the lowest level of producing our own food in this country for 20 years. I mean, it's just...
Well, as
is anyone thinking this through?
In the Sunday Times yesterday saying, what do they want to do, nationalise the countryside? You know, is that where we're going? And what on earth is a lady from Lewisham like Rachel Reeves going to do with all this land?
Our agriculture minister is from South London as well.
I was
where East Anglia is.
Speaking to a guy over the weekend, I don't really want to say what his business is, but it's the most ordinary type business, and he employs people at lower wage type people. And overall, the national insurance and the pay increases are costing him £150,000 extra. Now, it's a smallish sort of business, and you would look and you would say, but surely that affects everybody. That affects local kids getting jobs. Of
course it does.
And various things. And it's just interesting to see how you get politicians or civil servants who formulate policy on the basis that they've never had any business acumen, knowledge or experience.
I think that's the thing, is that you can see quite clearly that these guys have not done a hard day's working job in their life. OK, politicians, you know, got a very important role in our society, but when you're just building a business and you're excited, you know, I mean, when I was at my zenith, you know, I employed 20 people, and it was really exciting to be able to pay the bills at the end of the month and know that you're contributing to other people's welfare. Well, of course, all of a sudden now you're thinking about yourself. Well, how am I going to pay myself after being in business for 25, 30 years? How am I going to pay myself? And you're going to cut people that you employ.
Yeah, and none of the people in Cabinet, not one, have ever run a business, not one.
And even the OBR have said that the national insurance contributions hike is going to affect employers and it's going to affect earnings, and it will lead to higher
and products and
prices.
services. Products and services are going to go up, aren't they? Quite clear.
Anyone getting growth from that? I mean, how does that happen? Explain that one, Rachel Reeves.
Well, let's turn to something stateside, shall we?
Oh, yes, let's. If you think our politics are mad, let's go over the pond, shall we? Well, America, this is the front page of The Guardian. Harris and Trump make final push in the swing states. It is neck and neck. I mean, I think everybody, even if you are disengaged in politics, is actually curious about how this one's going to go. And it really is, you can't call it. And we've had poll after poll, and we all know how reliable polls are. They're not, basically. But, I mean, the interesting thing, it could be several days, even weeks before we know the winner. I mean, obviously, the polls happen on Tuesday. You know, it's 70 million Americans have already voted in the postal vote. But because of the way the electoral system works in America, most of the states, 7 states, can only start counting the postal votes on the day of the election still. Which is why it could be delayed and why you're going to get arguments, because it is so close. So we might not know, but it is going to be interesting.
It is definitely going to be interesting, and I made the point in an interview earlier that this is sort of bonfire week, isn't it, here in the UK? We have lots of fireworks, but it's, oh, my goodness, there's going to be fireworks stateside as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, not that I'm in depth with the American political thing, but I think on the one side you've got Mr. Trump, who did have those 4 successful years, although they're controversial, successful years, juxtaposed with Harris, Biden, who over the last 4 years has seen wars and rumours of wars, and the economy is not as bright as it was 4 years ago. So let's see what they do about it.
I'm going to skip the story about Kemi Badenoch just purely because we've got Conservatives coming on in just a few moments and we can talk some more about that. But I do want to talk about the story that's on the front of several of the newspapers this morning, Dawn, which is these angry citizens in Spain pelting the King and Queen with mud. And I think there were reports of cans and stones, and you saw their security detail bleeding as well.
Yes.
Sort of attitude towards royals that is unprecedented, I think,
it is in
Western royals.
It is in Spain. Now, they did have the Spanish Prime Minister with them, and I do wonder, Pedro Sanchez, whether it is aimed more at him. Now, these horrific... I've just come back from a couple of days in Ibiza, and lots of the people that were on Ibiza, working on Ibiza, had relatives, obviously, near Valencia, in the area that's been affected by this. So they were all worried about their friends and their families, and they were also astonished at how the government had treated the people before this happened as well. This isn't a new thing. This has been happening for decades, these floods, and they're always been ignored by the government. So they're very angry at the government. So I think it was probably more aimed at the Prime Minister than the King and Queen. The Prime Minister fled in his car after getting pelted with mud and stones, where King Philippe
But it was a week before anybody turned up.
Oh, yeah, but that's the point. That's the point,
And there was no infrastructure, there's no flood defences, there's no preparation on behalf of most countries in the Western world to deal with these natural disasters, and we are all going to have to think very differently about it.
And there are thousands missing still.
Still.
Death toll at 270, but I was reading reports this morning about these huge underground super car parks that they have.
They're still
over
searching
Spain,
the bodies.
And all these people who have drowned in these supermarkets, and there's no one's even gone in there yet.
No, because they don't. I mean, I think the emergency services are trying their best, but the officials and the authorities out there have been appalling.
Yeah, I was just wanted to add that I think that there's a little bit of a compound effect, really. If you think of the last half dozen years, the general public have just felt that those who are in control of powers and position, have a much more comfortable life than what we've had through the pandemic and onto, with our own rights in Southport and to this. So I think there's that compound effect.
I think that's a great point. I think the ordinary people, both in Spain and here, just feel that they're not being listened to about anything anymore.
I'm just looking here what your local town or city may be best known for. Deliveroo have done a survey, and if you're from Glasgow, there are more Eccles cakes and scones ordered in Glasgow than
Cream
anywhere
teas,
else.
yes, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
Interesting,
great.
that
It's a
one.
Deliveroo maps the nation's taste, and you won't be shocked to hear that Royal Tunbridge Wells has more champagne and Gal's bakery items delivered. But the fourth hot item on the top trending list is cucumbers. We're all getting healthier, evidently.
Really?
I know, fascinating fact.
What, on Deliveroo? You order a cucumber on Deliveroo?
People order all sorts on Deliveroo. You'd be surprised. Yeah, but Blackpool is Costa Coffee, Bath is Franco Manca Pizza, and Leon Pizza are, and Kettering is Top Fernando.
Well, good idea for you two to go and get something like that right now as we go to the weather and the break. Thank you very much indeed, Dawn and Chris. Here's Jonathan Vautry with your weather picture for this Monday morning.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Welcome to your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We are into a new working week, but we're holding on to the same weather pattern that we've had for several days now. High pressure is still in charge, keeping things fairly fine and settled for all of us, but underneath this high is a widespread blanket of cloud. So it is grey, dull and drab for many of us as we do step out this morning. Most of us will manage to stay dry, but the cloud is thick enough to produce the odd spot of drizzle in places, so do just watch out for that. Temperatures are roughly going to be where we'd expect them to be for the time of year, around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But despite all this widespread cloud, there will be a lucky few that manage to see the sunshine poking through at times. One of those regions certainly is going to be parts of northwestern Scotland, where we've got the greatest chance across parts of the Highlands, maybe just into parts of Argyll and Bute as well for that sunshine to poke through. Western Northern Ireland as well, hopefully seeing a bit of brightness later on in the day, and we've also got the chance as well for western parts of Wales and also for the likes of Cornwall. Southeastern England may also see a little sunshine as well, tapping into some of the winds coming in off continental Europe, where they have much clearer skies around. That cloud, though, elsewhere is going to remain in place as we head throughout Tuesday, lowering at times, so certainly will be misty and murky around coasts and over the hills. There is also the possible of some low-level fog around as we start off on Tuesday morning. Most of us underneath that cloud, seeing temperatures only drop to around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, but where you do have some clear spells overnight, it could be a chillier start to Tuesday with certainly low single figures. As we head throughout the day then, we'll be chasing after those sunnier breaks. Once again, northern Scotland likely to see some of the best ones, parts of southeast England as well. We will, though, hold off from this rain, so it is again going to stay largely dry across most areas. Temperatures again 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But with a southerly wind kicking in for the middle part of the week, temperatures could just climb up a little bit later on. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the West Midlands, the A435 Ulster Road's closed southbound out of Birmingham from Druids Heath to Withall after an accident. In Northamptonshire, the A14's closed westbound from junction 11 at Findon to 10 at Burton Latimer after an accident. In Gloucestershire, the A417 is partly blocked by an accident just south of Birdlip, causing delays heading away from the Air Balloon roundabout. In London, on the A41, the inside lane's closed southbound when it's an accident just off the A1 at Five Ways Corner, causing queues. Other problems in Essex, the A127's partly blocked westbound just after the Fortune of War at Leindon. It's very slow towards and past there. And the A13 is partly blocked westbound by an accident just before the Five Bells interchange at Basildon, causing queues from the Pitsea flyover. And in Hampshire, the A3057 is closed each way between Kingsonbourne and Kimbridge after an accident last night. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good luck. This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's the final day of campaigning as America is set to decide on the next president of the United States.
Candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tour swing states in a final push for what is being described as a neck-and-neck election.
That's as a survey of Britons have them backing Harris, but believe Trump will snatch the keys to the White House.
Fury on farms. The Chancellor defends the inheritance tax raids on agricultural estates, insisting the nation can't afford to let farmers continue passing on their land.
Sir Keir Starmer is set to double border force funding as he unveils fast-track justice for people smugglers, akin to that used for the summer rioters.
New leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, is expected to appoint her new shadow cabinet later this morning.
The Prince of Wales is set to arrive in Cape Town for the annual Earthshot Prize Environmental Awards. Cameron Walker is there for us.
Described as Prince William's Super Bowl moment, he's also being used as a global statesman, joined by the Foreign Secretary David Lammy for an audience with the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa.
That's as royal officials look to remove the word empire from the King's honours. We'll be debating that one later this morning.
And in the sport, the Dutch Dick Dastardly won the wacky races of the Brazil Grand Prix yesterday. Manchester United drew with Chelsea before the new boss comes in. Spurs came back from 1 down to beat Aston Villa 4-1. And Jose Mourinho attempts a knee slide when the grass just isn't slippery enough. Don't you hate that when that happens?
After a weekend of grey skies, does this new week offer anything brighter for us? Join me later to find out.
Hello there, I'm Eamonn Holmes. On this Monday morning, this is GB News Breakfast.
I'm Isabel Webster, and it's 1 minute past 7.
Wacky races there. That was bringing me back as to some of the characters there on wacky races.
I was going to do that with you in about 20 minutes, and I thought I'll do a quiz with Eamonn. And do you remember the wacky races?
Sorry.
So who do you remember? Eamonn, do you remember?
Who do I remember? Oh, well, Peter Perfect, Penelope Pitstop.
Yep.
Dastardly Muttley.
Dick Dastardly.
I'd love to have seen Dastardly win something at some stage.
Did he ever win one? Did he never win one?
I remember him winning something, and then it was disqualified. You know, he didn't get it in the end.
See, the problem was Muttley always wanted a medal. That was the problem.
Yeah. I laugh like Muttley sometimes.
Do you?
Yeah. It's like a spot.
Yeah.
We'll get you like that.
Oh, Muttley laugher. OK. I'll do the quiz with you later, then we'll see how we get on.
OK, we'll see how we go.
Right, let's turn our attention then, shall we, to British politics this hour. We are this morning awaiting the announcement of the new shadow cabinet following on from the selection of Kemi Badenoch as the new leader of the Conservative Party. Well, let's speak to Andrew Bowie, who has been an outspoken Badenoch supporter throughout. Good morning to you. Welcome to the programme. I suppose the big question is whether your loyalty could well be earning you a seat in her shadow cabinet this morning. Are you expecting a call?
Look, that is not the big question at all. The big question is where the Conservative Party goes now that we have Kemi installed as leader, and the excitement that I think has been generated by her election, and the fact that we can now really turn our fire on the Labour Party and get into a place where in 4 or 5 years' time we can turn the tide on this failing government and present the British people with a credible alternative, and that will be the Conservative Party under Kemi's leadership.
To be clear, though, you're not saying you don't expect a call today.
Look, the appointments to Shadow Cabinet are entirely at the preserve of the leader. I'm not going to get drawn into any speculation. This morning, I'm just delighted that we are now at the end of the leadership contest, that Kemi has been elected, and we can turn our fire on the opposition. That's the Labour Party and Keir Starmer, but also reform in the form of Nigel Farage, and indeed the Liberal Democrats and the SNP as well, because we need to win back seats across the country if we're ever going to get back into government.
How do you think Kemi Badenoch will be making those decisions? She'll presumably have been pondering it yesterday. We know Boris Johnson, of course, based his cabinet very much on loyalty. He was trying to manage a very unmanageable party through that. Is that going to be the same challenge that Kemi Badenoch will be facing? Do you think we might see Robert Jenrick in there? Or do you think she will be choosing those people based purely on the best person for the job, on merit alone?
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be the latter. She has said that she's going to be offering positions to all of the other candidates in the leadership. That includes, of course, Robert Jenrick. And, of course, there has to be an element of loyalty in any team to the team leader to actually get things done. But she's going to be appointing people to the Shadow Cabinet on merit, people that she genuinely believes are best placed to do the job. And let us not forget, the job that we have is a huge one. The task is absolutely gargantuan. We've only got 121 MPs. We are much diminished from where we were prior prior to the election. And if we're going to regain the British people's trust, as we must do if we're going to take the fight to Labour in the next election, then it's going to take the best talent that we have at the top table to start delivering for the Conservative Party and indeed the country. And that's the basis on which Kemi will be appointing people to the shadow cabinet.
And do you think, obviously you're a supporter of Kemi Badenoch, but you know, it's no secret some people describe her as a bit tricky, a bit abrasive. Do you think that those traits will make her the right leader to be able to not only unite a party that, as we know, has been through a turbulent time, but also to make her popular with the British public? Because at the moment she's not hugely popular with them.
I do wonder sometimes these phrases that are bandied around about Kemi. Had she been a man, she would be known as determined and somebody that knows her mind. And so I worked with Kemi as a junior minister in the Department for International Trade. She was my Secretary of State. Yes, she knows her mind. Yes, she knows what needs to be done. And yes, she has a high work ethic that she expects others to follow. But I think she is absolutely the best person to lead this party forward. She cuts through. She's a great communicator. She is determined, and she will not shy away from taking the fight to Keir Starmer at the dispatch box every Wednesday. And I, for one, am looking forward to PMQs this week to actually see how that falls out. I
agree with you there. I'm also looking forward to PMQs, which will definitely be interesting. I just want to know, because, I mean, the Labour chairwoman, Ellie Reeves, she said that Kemi Badenoch was adding insult to injury by describing Partygate as overblown. And here we have the new leader of the party, less than 24 hours into the role, already making controversial comments like that. Was that a gaffe, do you think, or did she have a point?
No, she absolutely had a point. What she was saying was that we should not have criminalised normal human behaviour, everyday behaviour, such as going for a walk, sitting down in a park. These things, in retrospect, I think we all would agree was the wrong thing to criminalise, which is what sort of laid the trap for where Boris and his staff fell in. So that's what she was saying the other day, and I stand by her comments.
What do you make of the controversy surrounding these taxes on agricultural land, on these wealthy landowners and farmers? Rachel Reeves saying it's unaffordable, frankly, to allow farmers to avoid inheritance tax. But I'm always slightly more interested by what the Institute for Fiscal Studies have to say on things. They seem to be sort of impartial, fairly sound observations. They've come out and saying that this is going to be significantly more generous. They're going to be treated significantly more generously than the rest of us, and actually still more generously treated than farmers used to be in decades past, and says it will affect a remarkably small number of the most valuable farms. So it sounds as though the IFS is supportive of this policy from Labour.
Look, we're at a point right now where in agriculture it's actually very difficult to get young people interested or indeed into that sector. And what these measures will do will actually make it harder for a farmer to pass down his farm to the next generation. And that is going to have a huge impact, not just in terms of how we manage land and agriculture in this country, but actually for our food security here in the United Kingdom. Because what we will see is farmers selling off their land, try and divest themselves of the land that they have to try and avoid paying this tax. And we're going to be in a place that we have less food grown in the United Kingdom for British people to consume. So it's bad on a whole number of levels, but it's just bad economics as well. This entire policy, this entire upset that's being caused is only going to generate something like £500 million, which, when you look at the scale of what Rachel Reeves is seeking to do, is very little indeed. So I think it's an ideologically based policy. It's not going to raise as much money as she actually needs, and it's going to damage our food security and the future of farming in this country. So for all of those reasons, it's a very bad thing indeed.
Just lastly, I want to ask you about this Dawn Butler row. Sir Keir Starmer doesn't appear to be removing the whip from her after she retweeted, frankly, a racist post describing Kemi Badenoch as a white supremacist in blackface. Now, she later unretweeted it. But do you think that she should go? Do you think that she has a place in the modern Labour Party supporting a comment like that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Of course the whip should be removed. If this had been a Conservative MP retweeting a comment like that, you can only imagine the howls of opprobrium that would be coming from the other benches. The fact was that tweet was racist, and Dawn Butler retweeted it. So Keir should show what he's made of and should absolutely withdraw the whip. Language like that has no place in modern political discourse in this country. So he should do the right thing, remove the whip, and indeed apologise for her even considering that was an appropriate thing for her to retweet. A responsible, publicly elected official official. Retweeting comments like that is just wrong.
OK, Andrew Bowie, at the moment without portfolio, perhaps that might change in the next few hours. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
In other political news, the Chancellor has defended her government's inheritance tax rate on farmers. We were just talking about it there, despite a major backlash from the agricultural sector. She's claimed Britain cannot afford for farmers to pass on their estates without paying inheritance tax. Reckon we've done all right so far. But meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer will today announce a £150 million crackdown on illegal migration and demand that criminal gangs are fast-tracked through the courts.
Oh, well, let's get the thoughts now of the former Chief of Staff to Nadeem Zahawi, James Price, and regular on the show. Good morning, good to see you again.
Morning.
First of all, response to what Andrew Bowie was saying there. He's obviously a big Badenoch fan. Agree with him on that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Andrew's a class act. Let's hope he's got a good job. And I think that it's good of him to come out and call out Dawn Butler. I'm lucky enough that Dawn Butler is my local Member of Parliament.
Interesting.
And I've asked her for some replies to her on various constituency things. I haven't heard back. And she did this video for the start of Black History Month where she called herself the chosen one and said that various other people were weird and violent and didn't matter. I asked her if that can include some of her constituents like me, and I've not had a reply yet.
Oh, gosh. OK. Well, interesting that Sir Keir Starmer has decided not to remove the whip from that.
Very weak, isn't it?
Shown
Very weak.
A spineless element there?
Well, it's not like he's lacking for members of Parliament. She's not got any kind of big brief or anything like that. As I just said then, it's not the first comment that she's made. And it just shows, you know, if the Conservative Party is the first party to have female leaders, Asian leaders, black leaders, maybe that the Conservatives are not this evil, nasty, bigoted group that the left tries to portray them to be. Why is it that we've managed to get all these different kinds of leaders? Because we elect people based on merit, not on the colour of their skin. And yet it seems to be the left who are obsessed with these things still. Let's stop talking about it and start talking about the content of people's character again.
What about Starmer's announcement today, these fast-track court appearances for people smugglers?
I mean, look, we always want secure borders. That's a very important thing. We've not had secure borders for too long. Anyone can see that with the small boats problem. The Conservatives didn't manage to get a handle on it. I've got absolutely no confidence that Labour will either. Why is that? There is a whole legal morass tied up with things like the ECHR, but also a lot of our domestic law as well, that is preventing us from being able to deal with these things and to prevent people from coming over. We don't have any kind of disincentive.
I saw a very interesting thing yesterday. I was getting on a plane from Belfast to London, and on comes, before anybody could get on the plane, we had to assist on a migrant, an illegal migrant, on board with 2 Border Patrol officers.
Really?
Yeah, and I said, wow, how regular an occurrence. I said, oh, there'd be 2 or 3 every day. Yeah.
Where were they going? Back to look back?
And we pay for that. We pay for 3 British Airways airfares to get them back over or wherever they're coming from. And this guy, I tell you, he looked a bit of work. He looked you know, quite very professional, fit as a fiddle. You know, he looked a thug. He actually, you know, quite interested. And I thought, well, he's not there just being illegal. He's running a business, or he's doing something to do with extortion.
And everyone can see examples like this. I've been on a plane coming back into the UK from the Middle East, and the person sat next to me was rehearsing a script on her phone, saying what she had to say to border guards and pretend that she was coming in on a student visa and all these kinds of things. No one can seriously tell me, 25 years almost after the tragedies of things like 9/11 that completely changed, for example, the way we get onto aeroplanes, or the fact that we have in one of the best navies still in the world, that we cannot defend the English Channel from small dinghies coming across. It's obviously not a physical inability to do this. Why is it? It is this morass of lefty lawyers and people like that who frankly want people coming over here for reasons of, I suspect, political reasoning. Do I believe that Keir Starmer is able to do any of this? Do I think he cares? Do I think he understands? No. Who are the people that suffer? It's the people at home who have so many hotels near where they live. Their tax money is being spent on these hotel rooms for people who've come over here because we're seen as a soft touch. We're not bringing in the best. And, of course, when we bring these people in, we're stopping the young women and children who are stuck in refugee camps across the world, who are really those in the most need. We're preventing them from coming over. And we're also preventing the best and brightest migrants from coming here, starting businesses and growing and things like that.
Talking about the best and brightest, how has Donald Trump lost so much ground to Kamala Harris? You know, he was doing so well against Biden. Then she comes on the scene, much derided, and she's doing very, very well.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I suspect what's really happened here is that the polls and the pollsters are concerned. They don't really know. It's quite a tight race, and they're hedging, which is why everything is going like this. Do you remember in 2015 in the UK, for that general election, all the polls started getting really, really close, and I think it was people just being concerned. They didn't know what was happening, and they didn't want to be called out. There's one poll that's happened in the state of Iowa, where a woman called Ann Seltzer has predicted that Harris is going to win that seat, that she's up 3, which has been a staunch Republican Donald Trump seat for a long time. Now, either she is onto something and it's going to be a complete blowout.
And has been successful in her polls in the past.
Although she completely called 2004 wrong. So let's
2004, 20 years ago, but, you know.
And that was also in Iowa. So I think that this is the problem, that it's so close and people just don't know. And the thing that really concerns me about this is Harris has done nothing to explain what she actually believes in. There's a ballot initiative, they call it, a bit like a mini referendum in the state of California. I think it's called Prop 36. And she was asked, have you voted in this? She said yes. Well, how did you vote? So I'm not going to answer that because it's 2 days before the election. Well, it's a vote about whether to make sentences for drug dealers and thieves harsher or not. Surely people should know on something as simple as that how you're going to vote. No one knows because they've not let her speak her mind. When Trump, for all of his many faults, is doing these 3-hour-long podcasts extempore, and you know exactly what he's like. And so that's an interesting choice I think the American people are going to have to make.
Okay. James, thanks very much.
Good hearing from you today, James. Thank you. We're now asking you what you think in our polls. We run one every day. And today, here is the question.
Do you agree with Nigel Farage that Labour doesn't understand farmers? We'll be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show.
OK. All the latest news and polls, it's on gbnews.com/poll. Now, with a day to go until those American elections happen, new data suggests that just under half of people in this country are hoping for a Kamala Harris win. But they believe that President Trump will actually take office.
Meanwhile, the race in the US is on a knife's edge, with Harris leading in 2 polls and at a tie in 3 others.
Overnight, Barack Obama took aim at Donald Trump. Here's what he had to say.
What I cannot understand is why anybody would think Donald Trump will shake things up in a way that is good for you. Donald Trump is not thinking about you. People think Donald Trump will improve the economy is because they watched The Apprentice. The truth is, Donald Trump was given $400 million by his daddy. That's how he got rich. And somehow his company still managed to declare bankruptcy 6 times.
Well, we are joined by the founding director of the UCL Centre on US Politics, Dr. Thomas Gift. Good morning to you. It's going to be an interesting 48 hours or maybe even more, that's for sure. What do you make of all of these polls that seem to be favouring Kamala Harris at the last moment, at the 11th hour? Do you put much credence to that?
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be with you. You know, at this point, even if Kamala Harris gains a percentage or 2 in the national polls, it's really just not significant. It is on a knife's edge, 50-50. That's true nationally. That's also true in key swing states. If you look at prediction markets, actually, Donald Trump has the slight advantage. Where individuals can gamble and who's going to win the election. Right now, he's at about 57%, while Harris is at 43%. It does seem like Harris has got a little bit momentum going into tomorrow, but still, I think it's basically a toss-up at this point.
And who do you think, from your assessment, would be better for us here in Britain? Because obviously there's lots of concerns that a Trump administration would be imposing these high tariffs on anything that we were exporting to the United States. And over the weekend, Liam Halligan, who was former of this parish, but he's an economist, was writing a sort of pro-Trump newspaper here over the weekend, saying that actually a Trump administration would be terrible for Americans because it would be inflationary because of those tariffs.
Well, I think you're right. The tariffs are a big problem, in my view, for Donald Trump. He's promised 10% to 20% tariffs on all imports into the United States. He's promised upwards of 60% tariffs on China. And all of those costs would be eventually passed on to consumers. And so there's a question about how sustainable that would be. Of course, this is just Donald Trump making pledges. If he did get into office, he might rethink what his policy stance is. But more broadly, I think Trump and Harris offer pretty starkly different views for the future of the country, as well as foreign policy and implications for the UK. I mean, Donald Trump, more turbulence, more instability would really be placing pressure on the UK and other Western allies to increase spending on NATO, for example. Kamala Harris, a bit more kind of status quo at this point. I think she should offer more continuity in line with what the Biden administration has pursued.
What about the role of fake news in this election? It's been on the rise in elections all over the world in the last decade or so. I was reading that Russia's created 300 fake videos impersonating more than 50 major news organisations to try and sow division, suggesting that the vote is rigged. You know, how much of an impact is that going to have, and who will that play into the hands of, effectively?
Well, you're absolutely right. I think fake news, misinformation, disinformation, all of this is a major challenge for U.S. security whenever it comes to these elections. Of course, this is nothing new. 2016, 2020, now here 2024 again. A lot of this sort of plays into how low information or low propensity voters turn out to the polls, because I mean, most of this is geared toward individuals that maybe don't have the ability to sift through and discern what's authoritative and what's not authoritative. At this point, there's probably a lot going on that we really just don't know or understand, whether that's Putin or other geopolitical adversaries. So it is a challenge, it is a problem, and something that U.S. security apparatus has been sort of cognizant of.
Dr. Gift, got to leave it there. Thanks for your intake. Thank you very much indeed. And the weather over the weekend, it was grey, it was misty, it was just like
mild.
That, sort of, and quite mild as well.
I went to my first bonfire night of the season on Saturday night. It was lovely weather for fireworks.
When is bonfire night?
It's technically tomorrow, 5th of November.
Remember, the 5th of November. Yeah, OK. But there we go. But now, since you lot in England have now adopted Halloween as well.
Yeah, that's huge as well. That was great.
I remember as a kid, I used to sit and watch, all the Blue Peters and Magpies of this world. Not a mention of Halloween. We used to sit in Belfast and go, Mummy, why are they not mentioning Halloween? Why? Wasn't celebrated here at all.
We didn't mark it as
Then
kids.
the Americans came on board, and there you go. The rest is history. So it's fireworks season. Let's see what it's doing up there. Here's Jonathan Vautry.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Welcome to your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We are into a new working week, but we're holding on to the same weather pattern that we've had for several days now. High pressure is still in charge, keeping things fairly fine and settled for all of us. But underneath this high is a widespread blanket of cloud. So it is grey, dull and drab for many of us as we do step out this morning. Most of us will manage to stay dry, but the cloud is thick enough to produce the odd spot of drizzle in places, so do just watch out for that. Temperatures are roughly going to be where we'd expect them to be for the time of year, around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But despite all this widespread cloud, there will be a lucky few that manage to see the sunshine poking through at times. One of those regions certainly is going to be parts of northwestern Scotland, where we've got the greatest chance across parts of the Highlands, maybe just into parts of Argyll and Bute as well for that sunshine to poke through. Western Northern Ireland as well, hopefully seeing a bit of brightness later on in the day, and we've also got the chance as well for western parts of Wales and also for the likes of Cornwall. Southeastern England may also see a little sunshine as well, tapping into some of the winds coming in off continental Europe, where they have much clearer skies around. That cloud, though, elsewhere is going to remain in place as we head throughout Tuesday, lowering at times, so certainly will be misty and murky around coasts and over the hills. There is also the possible of some low-level fog around as we start off on Tuesday morning. Most of us underneath that cloud, seeing temperatures only drop to around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, but where you do have some clear spells overnight, it could be a chillier start to Tuesday with certainly low single figures. As we head throughout the day then, we'll be chasing after those sunnier breaks. Once again, northern Scotland likely to see some of the best ones, parts of southeast England as well. We will, though, hold off from this rain, so it is again going to stay largely dry across most areas. Temperatures again 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But with a southerly wind kicking in for the middle part of the week, temperatures could just climb up a little bit later on. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Great British Giveaway, not just the Great British Giveaway, the Great British Christmas Giveaway. Yeah. And here's how you could be part of it.
Court cases.
A presidential dropout.
Assassination attempts.
This has been a US election like no other.
And if the polls are correct, it's on a knife edge.
Tomorrow night, stay up with us as the drama unfolds and America decides their next president.
We'll discuss what it means for them, for the world, and for our special relationship. America Decides, tomorrow night from 11.
Only on GB News.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets at my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Court cases.
A presidential dropout.
Assassination attempts.
This has been a US election like no other.
And if the polls are correct, it's on a knife edge.
Tomorrow night, stay up with us as the drama unfolds and America decides their next president.
We'll discuss what it means for them, for the world, and for our special relationship. America Decides, tomorrow night from 11.
Only on GB News.
Prince William is set to join young environmentalists taking part in the Earthshot Prize Awards. These are happening in Cape Town.
Yeah, the Prince of Wales will start his whistle-stop tour of South Africa by meeting some of the 120 future leaders who will be taking part in his programme.
Now, it all comes as Spain's King Philippe faced major public backlash when he was visiting a flood-stricken town in Valencia. People were not happy.
Well, let's speak to our royal correspondent Cameron Walker, who joins us from South Africa this morning. Good to see you in Cape Town there. The Prince due to arrive this morning, and this is really all his brainchild. It's his baby, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is, Isabel, and it looks like he's bringing the British weather with him as well, because it's very cold and has started to rain here in Cape Town. But yes, it's been described as his Super Bowl moment, and I suppose the concept actually started when Prince William was on the African continent in 2018, where he says he discovered the power of innovation to solve some of the world's greatest problems, and it's inspired by John F. Kennedy's moonshot of the 1960s, trying to solve the seemingly impossible task to put a man on the moon, and Prince William trying to solve the impossible task, or seemingly impossible task, to find solutions to repair the planet within this critical decade. And yesterday, GB News was given special access to the 15 Earthshot Prize finalists for 2024 at a vineyard just outside of Cape Town, and they've been meeting different stakeholders who are trying to help them really to scale up their small-scale solution at the moment to have a truly kind of global impact. And I spoke to the chief executive of the Earthshot Prize, Hannah Jones, and she said none of this would really be possible without Prince William's convening power.
Prince is an absolute at the heart of everything we do. He is our founder, and he has put so much sweat equity, as we call it in America, into who we are, what we are, how we think about our strategy. He leads us from the front, and what he does is invaluable. We really wouldn't be the platform we are without his guidance and his engagement on a literally week-by-week basis.
We might be wondering, sat there at home, how is climate change really going to affect me? And I suppose one of the finalists, Nature Metrics, they've come up with a way which could actually reduce food prices for people in the United Kingdom. It's all about providing the farmers with the data to allow them to make better decisions, increasing crop yields, which means more food on the table, more food in the supermarkets, and therefore potentially lowering prices. So that's just one example of how a British finalist could be making a real difference. But Prince William, when he arrives here in Cape Town, will be meeting some young environmentalists, part of the first ever Climate Leaders Youth Programme. So he's going to be spending time with them. And of course, it's been described, as I said, as Prince William's Super Bowl moments, the actual award ceremony taking place on Wednesday, where the finalists are up for £1 million prizes.
The Super Bowl moment for Prince William, but in stark contrast, his counterparts in Spain, the royals there, getting a very frosty reception following on from this tragedy in Valencia. Tell us more about what's been happening there.
Yeah, tensions have really been running high, Isabel, since those devastating floods earlier this week in Valencia. And I suppose it's perhaps because of the, that people are blaming the authorities for not giving enough support to locals. And the King and Queen of Spain, the King as head of state, perhaps is the authorities personified. It happened in the town of Porto, which is one of the worst affected towns in the region. And the King and Queen were pelted with mud and other objects as they were trying to meet residents in the town, see the devastation and see perhaps what they could do to help. The Queen was in tears at one point, but instead of running away and turning away, they actually took it in their stride, went to meet residents, hear their struggles, hear their issues with what had happened in terms of the support that authorities had given them. And you just have to think, what would have happened if it was in the United Kingdom? I suspect the chief executive, close protection officers even for the King, the Queen, Prince William, Princess Catherine, for example, wouldn't perhaps have put them in a situation such as that. So, although a completely different situation, we saw it took a while for members of the royal family to visit following the Southport riots. So the King and Queen of Spain taking it in their stride, not hiding away, but clearly a very difficult situation for them.
Yeah, indeed. Unbelievable scenes there. Cameron, thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Paul and the sport right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the West Midlands, the A435 Ulster Road is closed southbound out of Birmingham from Druids Heath to Withell after an accident. In Leicestershire, the A4303 Coventry Road is closed westbound at Lutterworth because of an accident. In Northamptonshire, the A14 is closed westbound from Junction 11 at Findon to 10 at Burton Latimer after an accident overnight. In Gloucestershire, the A417 is partly blocked by an accident at Birdlip, causing queues. In South Wales, the A4058 Tyler Road is closed south of Uster stood after an accident. In London on the A41, the inside lanes closed southbound off the A1 at Five Ways Corner after an accident with queues towards there. And in Essex, the A13 is closed westbound from the Pitsea flyover to the Five Bells interchange at Basildon after an accident and oil spill causing delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Paul, what do you got for us sports-wise?
Jose Mourinho. So, if one of the great goal celebrations is the knee slide, run along, on the knees, all this, but obviously there's a friction comes into play, and you obviously need a nice slick surface.
You do.
If you're going to slide.
Well-watered, yes.
Well-watered. The right trouser, it all counts. Now, Fenerbahce, who is Jose Mourinho's team, played Trabzonspor yesterday. It was 2-2, went to like the 98th minute, and then his Fenerbahce side win. He's going to celebrate. He thinks, I'm going to go for the knee slide.
This is what happened.
Have a look. Here we go. There. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Turned into a commando roll.
Look, slow motion. Hey, here we go, over the top.
Was that Mourinho?
That's Mourinho, yeah, that's it. See, the thing is, he probably got away with it through everybody. So there he goes, and knees, no.
And bundle.
He probably slid for about an inch there, didn't he?
Yeah, I would worry about that because I think you would dislocate your kneecaps.
You know what? That's true. You've got to be careful.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful. But in the excitement, you know, sometimes you just don't think that way.
Why not? Why not?
Exactly. So anyway, there was football yesterday. Jose Mourinho's former team, actually both of his former teams.
Yes.
Actually, in fact, every team that he's ever looked after played yesterday. Manchester United drew with Chelsea yesterday, which I think is an OK result. It wasn't a great game.
No, I agree with you.
Roy Keane was critical.
Yeah, but, you know, you get a point against Chelsea, they get a point against us. I think everybody's happy.
Yeah. Bruno Fernandes apologised, didn't he, about Eric Ten Hag and said, you know, when players apologise for managers getting sacked, it's like, well, it's all a little too late, you know? You can't. You should be able to walk away and say, well, we did everything we could. Spurs were very good yesterday. They managed to beat Aston Villa.
Superb result.
4-1. Yeah, they beat them 4-0 away. It's almost like, although Aston Villa had beaten Spurs at the Tottenham Stadium 2 years in a row, this time they turn it around and Spurs beat them 4-0 at Villa Park last year.
Is that why you sound so hoarse today?
You know what?
Just celebrating.
This is what always I get asked, and they're going, oh, were you shouting? Were you getting excited?
You've been having a few drinks.
It wasn't. No, it's not. It's just It's just the lurgy.
Oh, it's the lurgy, sorry.
The Brazil Grand Prix, I was saying earlier, was very much like the wacky races yesterday.
Yes.
Because of the rain and everything. So, you know what? It was won by Max Verstappen, who was the Dick Dastardly, quite frankly, because that is what he was called by Damon Hill, and he's defended that. He's the Dick Dastardly, but I thought we'd have a look at some wacky races. What do you think?
Yeah.
Right, OK, Right, so there we are. Enough of all that nonsense. Let's see the wacky races, the real wacky races. Who is this and what's the name of the car? Right, first one, please. There we are.
Well, that's Dick.
Yes, there's Dick Dastardly.
That's Dick Dastardly, and his car was called sort of like the Murder Machine or
You're
something.
so close. It was the Mean Machine.
Was it the Mean Machine?
It was the Mean Machine.
Right.
And there's well, let's go with another one. Right, who are these?
That's Rock and Barney Rubble.
No.
It is the Rubble Brothers.
No, they were actually called, which I think is different in America. They were called the Slag Brothers. I don't think it means the same over there.
In the song, they were called the Rubble Brothers, Rock and Barney.
The Bouldermobile.
Right, the
Boulder Brothers.
Yeah.
Do you remember? And then Captain Caveman got a spin-off from that.
Oh.
OK, who's that?
Oh, that's a haunted mobile anyway.
Yes.
It
was the Creepy Coupe. The Creepy Coupe, driven by the Gruesome Twosome.
The Gruesome Twosome, yes.
And who will win this race? And finally, who is this?
I can't really see what that is.
That was the Crazy Professor, do you remember?
Oh, right.
The Crazy Professor, Pat Pending in the...
Pending, how clever is that?
The converter car. And I've even got a list of results. The person that won it the most was the Compact Pussycat, and that was Penelope Pitstop, who won it more times than anybody else. Surprise, surprise. 4 wins, came second twice, 5 times she came third.
And did Dick ever win? That could have been you, Isabel.
Yeah, I'd have liked that mobile.
Did Dick ever win?
Dick never won.
Gosh.
Never won. And I think there should have been one where at least Dick Dastardly won and then Muttley got his medal. But no, never won a race, ever.
Thank you, my friend. There we go.
Do you know why? Because crime never pays, Eamonn, that's right.
So they say.
Cheats never prosper, you know.
Got the papers coming up, that's next.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Online dating apps are still the go-to for millions of British adults, with 1 in 10 using them to look for a romantic connection.
Yes, are you one of them? Let us know. But with many apps introducing subscription fees and complex algorithms, the world of online dating has never been harder to navigate. So who better to join us to discuss this than Mr. Tinder himself, Stefan Pierre Tomlin. You have been dubbed Britain's best-looking eligible bachelor.
Yeah, so this happened back in 2016. Got an email from Tinder, and it was like, "You're the most swiped man on Tinder."
So just explain to us, for viewers who don't know, what is swiping? What does that mean on Tinder?
Yeah, so on Tinder, the app, if you swipe left, that means you don't like the person in front of you, and if you swipe to the right, that means you like that person.
So do you mind still being associated with that? It's a good...
Well, it made me who I am now, and I love sharing how I was successful, and now I'm like a dating expert.
What's your situation now? Are you with anyone? Are you still single, paying the bill?
So I'm seeing someone at the minute. Things are going well, and I'm a dating expert, so I'm always giving advice to people.
Does she know your title of most swiped?
Of course, who doesn't? It's quite hard. It's quite hard being the most swiped man on Tinder because you get a label on you. So I find it harder than anyone else, to be honest.
And where did you meet her? That's the big question.
At an event.
So not on Tinder?
Not on Tinder, ironically. Yeah.
So for all that troubled online, there's actually a real life rendezvous. Which
I mean, I have met people on Tinder in the past, and it has worked. Well, it didn't work, but yeah.
I need to know how to do the famous Stefan Smolder.
That camera is not a camera. That is your best friend, that's your lover. So you really smiles from the camera, so it goes like this.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We are going through what is making the news in the company of the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Neeson, and the Olympian Chris Akabusi. Welcome to both of you.
Cheers, guys. Well, what's this about names? We're all talking about names.
This is in the Daily Mail, page 5. Dawn?
Yeah, it's a fun story. Evidently, 1 in 10 of us hate the names we are given in childhood, with Nigels, Garys and Traces being the least happy. 12% of adults hate their name, with 2 in 5 moaning it's too outdated, and a fifth saying it makes them sound like a commoner.
Oh.
I guess the point of this survey is that your name does kind of give away your age, doesn't it? I mean, there's not many Dawns. I think there's only 2 Dawns born last year, so it's one of those names that is slowly dying out.
It's not in now.
No. I don't think it was ever in, to be honest with you.
It's a very pleasant name, Dawn.
It's a nice name, and I like dawn as a time of day. So
you brighten up the day, Dawn.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it is, I think, the real thing, as I said, it gives away your age, and a lot of people say it gives away your class. Like you asked me what my middle name is. My middle name is Maureen. You don't get many posh birds called Maureen. Just doesn't happen. So it gives those things away. But it's a bit sad that most of us don't like the names that we're given. But Chris, you actually changed yours, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I was going to say that when I was a young man, that's in 1975, leaving the children's home, I changed my name from Quincy, which had all sorts of connotations. With my sort of negligent character as a youngster, but also because it was very definite an African name, and back then the culture wasn't the same as it is now 50 years later, and so I wanted to fit in, not be ostracised and not be standing out, and give myself a new stance. But actually I love the name Keezy now because the name Keezy is filled with so much meaning in the language of my mother and father. I think that's one of the things that we have lost in the Western world, the connection, like you said, your name Dawn, you know, the dawn of day, the start, a new beginning, a bright new, all the opportunities. There's so much in a name called Dawn, you know, but we don't know. Or Peter, the rock of ages past, long-standing, trustworthy. It's a real powerful name, but we don't understand it. So when our parents pick a name, oh, I like that name, and a make-up name. Yeah. Actually losing the meaning behind the name. I'm wondering, you know, what does your name...
Oh, here we go.
Where you come from? Come on.
Go on, Eamonn.
Come on, Eamonn. What does Eamonn mean?
I mean, I must admit, I never liked my name, ever. And then I realised that it's made me more individual because there are no other Eamons about. So therefore I can go by, whereas no one would know Isabel. She's Isabel Webster. She'd have
to a penny.
But Isabel means something like light or bright.
But I was named after the TV presenter. My mother was in hospital, couldn't think of a name, and the TV presenter, Eamonn Andrews, popped up on the television, and she said, oh, he's got hair like my Eamonn. And she called me Eamonn after him.
Oh, lovely. Oh,
that may have determined what I ended up doing.
And funnily enough, over the weekend, we were chatting about this, my brother and I, with our parents, about how close to other names we were. And my mum said if I was a boy, I would have been called Marius.
Marius?
Which I think is quite a weird choice.
It is a weird
Webster.
one.
I'm forever grateful.
Whatever you call a child, however weird or strange, whatever, the child becomes that name. So it becomes...
One of the ladies, the booker that booked me last, saying, oh, I'm coming, her name is Sophia. And I said, oh, great, Sophia, the love of wisdom. You know, it's a philosophical name. It's a bright name. It's a beautiful name. And she said, oh, I know that. I hope I can live up to my parents. I said, Sophia, I'm sure you do.
It's interesting because you know a lot about it more than I do. And we do, over half of us judge people instantly on their name. So we make assumptions on people based on their name. I'm not sure I do, but I mean, you mentioning you changing your name from an African name to a more anglicised name.
No doubt about that. So there's no doubt about that. Like, you know, if I'm on the blower, I sound like a London boy.
Yeah.
But I turn up as Keezy. Boy, mate, you don't belong around here.
Yeah.
That was what it was like 50 years ago. You know, now, I mean, and like even today. So sometimes today, like, I get some speaking engagements, and I will wear my traditional wear. because, you know, I've accepted Quincy and my African heritage. And then the abuse you get on social media, you're not British, call yourself English, mate.
No.
You know, and you get all sorts of lyrics. So when a name says your ancestry is from another part of the country, part of the world, it can be detrimental.
It was quite interesting, some of the abuse Kemi Badenoch got online over the weekend. Go back to Nigeria and sort out Nigeria's problems. I mean, some of it's just horrific.
100%. 100%. So our Kemi is not Oluf, she's got a lovely not Igbo, sorry, pardon me, a Yoruba name.
Yeah.
But I can't at this moment.
Kemi is, but Badenoch's her husband's name, Hamish. You couldn't be more Scottish. Badenoch being a Celtic name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Never knew that.
Yeah, I only read that over the weekend.
Yeah, because her husband is Scottish.
Gosh.
I read all about her husband.
And you know what? Just changing the subject completely. When she was announced as winner, I loved the way that Hamish hugged her and kissed her properly. It looked so natural and looked so happy together.
She looked a bit awkward, I thought.
She looked a bit like, oh my God, you're kissing me. What are you doing?
Yeah. I'm at work, darling.
Yeah. To some political couples.
Yeah. Right, well, that was all in a name. Where should we go next, Eamonn? What do you fancy? How long have we got?
Well, what's Starmer saying about the migration crisis? I mean, he's saying that the world has got to wake up to the severity of the migration crisis.
Well, hello, Keir Starmer. Most of us have been aware of it for quite a while. So, I mean, it's basically British investigators will help French prosecutors to jail people smugglers after the Prime Minister announced they will double the amount of money to tackle the Channel migrant crisis. 75 million funding package, which we are going to give to advanced maritime drones and beefed up surveillance and tracking devices. Well, this is on top of the 500 million we've already given to France. That hasn't done anything. So what another 75 million is meant to do, I'm not sure. But countries are getting together around the world at a conference, 196 member countries, to talk about this subject. And Keir Starmer is vowed to smash the gangs, most of which are based in Turkey. He's also saying he's going to speed up prosecution for the gangs and get the gang members in prison earlier. Prisons that are already full up that we're having to release people. Anyone making sense of this one?
No, so I actually thought that their plans were to smash the gangs in the places of origin, in Afghanistan, in Syria, So I thought that was supposed to be the great sort of
That's meant to be the plan, but that's not actually what they're announcing here. What they're announcing here is more drones and 75 million to help other European countries.
OK, so it's
and process the gang members that come over here in the boats, but they don't do that, do they? They send the poor souls, the migrants over, while the gang members stay safely in France.
We don't know what we're doing with population in this country. Today on the radio, I heard a report that was talking about the pressure on the water companies with the increasing populations. Last week, we had a story about how the population in the UK was falling. The birth rate was well down. Well, you know, what is happening? We just don't know. I was in Belfast at the weekend, and it wasn't the Belfast I grew up in. It was completely different everywhere. I was sitting in a hotel looking out the window, and everybody going by. It was a nice ethnic mix of people, but always in Belfast, the only thing you were in Belfast was Catholic or Protestant. There wasn't anything to do with colour, anything. The only coloured people you would see would be doctors or the odd soldier. That would be it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our demographic bubble, you know, we are all getting older, and our young have been encouraged or disincentivised to have children. With people's independence, women want to have their career, no kids.
OK, Chris, thank you very much indeed. A few things about names there. Maybe you could like to add and have your say.
Yes, well, here's an interesting name, Jonathan Vaughtry. He's going to bring us our weather forecast, and overall, it's looking pretty mild for this time of year. Here are the details.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Welcome to your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We are into a new working week, but we're holding on to the same weather pattern that we've had for several days now. High pressure is still in charge, keeping things fairly fine and settled for all of us. But underneath this high is a widespread blanket of cloud. So it is grey, dull and drab for many of us as we do step out this morning. Most of us will manage to stay dry, but the cloud is thick enough to produce the odd spot of drizzle in places, so do just watch out for that. Temperatures are roughly going to be where we'd expect them to be for the time of year, around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But despite all this widespread cloud, there will be a lucky few that manage to see the sunshine poking through at times. One of those regions certainly is going to be parts of northwestern Scotland, where we've got the greatest chance across parts of the Highlands, maybe just into parts of Argyll and Bute as well for that sunshine to poke through. Western Northern Ireland as well, hopefully seeing a bit of brightness later on in the day, and we've also got the chance as well for western parts of Wales and also for the likes of Cornwall. Southeastern England may also see a little sunshine as well, tapping into some of the winds coming in off continental Europe, where they have much clearer skies around. That cloud, though, elsewhere is going to remain in place as we head throughout Tuesday, lowering at times, so certainly will be misty and murky around coasts and over the hills. There is also the possible of some low-level fog around as we start off on Tuesday morning. Most of us underneath that cloud, seeing temperatures only drop to around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, but where you do have some clear spells overnight, it could be a chillier start to Tuesday with certainly low single figures. As we head throughout the day, then, we'll be chasing after those sunnier breaks. Once again, northern Scotland likely to see some of the best ones, parts of southeast England as well. We will, though, hold off from this rain, so it is again going to stay largely dry across most areas. Temperatures again 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But with a southerly wind kicking in for the middle part of the week, temperatures could just climb up a little bit later on. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In the West Midlands, the A435 Ulster Road is closed southbound out of Birmingham from Druids Heath to Withall after an accident in the early hours of this morning. In Leicestershire, the A4303 Coventry Road is closed westbound at Lutterworth after an accident. In Northamptonshire, the A14 is closed westbound from junction 11 at Findon to 10 at Burton Latimer after an accident. On the M40 in Oxfordshire, there's a lane closed southbound a couple of miles after junction 11 at Banbury after an accident causing queues. In Gloucestershire, the A417 is partly blocked by an accident at Birdlip with queues from the Air Balloon roundabout. In Essex, the A13 is closed westbound from the Pitsea flyover to the Five Bills interchange at Basildon after an accident and oil spill causing queues from the Sadler's Farm roundabout. And on the M26 in Kent, it's taking around half an hour in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We're giving you good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Court cases.
A presidential dropout.
Assassination attempts.
This has been a US election like no other.
And if the polls are correct, it's on a knife edge.
Tomorrow night, stay up with us as the drama unfolds and America decides their next president.
We'll discuss what it means for them, for the world, and for our special relationship. America Decides, tomorrow night from 11.
Only on GB News.
The final day of campaigning as America is set to decide on the next president.
Candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tour swing states in a final push for what's being described as a neck-and-neck election.
Well, that's as a survey of Britons back Kamala Harris but believe Donald Trump will snatch the keys to the White House.
Fury on farms. The Chancellor defends the inheritance tax raids on agricultural estates, insisting the nation can't afford to let farmers continue passing on their land.
Sir Keir Starmer is set to double border force funding as he unveils fast-track justice for people smugglers, akin to that used for summer rioters. Our political correspondent Catherine Foster with the latest.
Yes. Rishi Sunak pledged to stop the boats. Keir Starmer says that Labour are going to smash the gangs. But already this year, the number of people crossing the channel illegally on small boats is more than the whole of last year. New measures being unveiled today. I'll bring you up to date shortly.
The new leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, is expected to appoint her new shadowed cabinet later this morning. We've been speaking to the Conservative MP, Andrew Bowie, on Breakfast.
She's going to be appointing people to the shadow cabinet on merit, people that she genuinely believes are best placed to do the job. Then it's going to take the best talent that we have at the top table to start delivering for the Conservative Party and indeed the country.
The Prince of Wales is set to arrive in Cape Town for the annual Earthshot Prize. Cameron Walker is there for us.
And that's as royal officials look to remove the word empire from the King's honours over colonial links. We'll be debating that later this morning.
And sport this morning, the Dutch Dick Dastardly won the wacky races of the Brazil Grand Prix yesterday. Manchester United drew with Chelsea before the new boss comes in, and Spurs came back from 1 down to beat Aston Villa 4-1.
After a weekend of grey skies, does this new week offer anything brighter for us? Join me later to find out.
Hello there, a very good morning to you on this Monday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast. A little bit of breaking news at this hour, and we're hearing that in the last few moments it's been confirmed the music legend Quincy Jones has passed away at the age of 91. Famous, of course, for collaborating with Michael Jackson, Frank Sinatra and many, many others. That's sad news.
Including TV programmes. He would write the theme musics for many of the best TV programmes that we would know, like... remember Chief Ironside?
Oh, Ironside, Raymond Burr. Yeah. He also did the music to The Italian Job. Do you remember?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, that was his as well. You'd be amazed. Soul Bossa Nova. That was used in Austin Powers. That was his. He won 20, I think it was like 28 Grammys that he won over the years.
And he had his finger in so many pies. I mean,
incredible.
A composer, a writer, all sorts of things.
Well, he started off with the jazz legends, sort of back in the 50s, and then touring around, and he was an arranger, and he was a band leader, and then went on to producer and writer. And when people probably started to take a huge amount of notice of him here, it was in the early 80s. And there was an album which is called The Dude, and there was a song called I Know Corrida and Razzmatazz, and people think, well, but he wasn't singing on it, but the album, because he couldn't sing, but he would get the Grammy, and the album was by Quincy Jones, but it actually wasn't him singing. He'd have, like, Patty Austin singing and James Ingram singing, and then Michael Jackson, then with Off the Wall, and then Thriller, and we know how huge that was. That was his. Unbelievable talent.
And he's collaborated with so many big names. I'm just looking down the list of his songwriting partners. Michael Jackson, Peggy Lipton, Tupac Shakur, Stevie Wonder, Will Smith, The Weeknd, Beyonce, Kanye West, Jay-Z, Patty Austin.
Everybody. I mean, you don't get bigger than Quincy Jones. There was a film that came out about 3 or 4 years ago, and he had a stroke in the middle of when they made the film, and people were thinking, and it seemed like he wasn't going to make it then. So it was very quiet for the last few years. But obviously, I mean, the man was 91, but an absolute music legend. USA for Africa as well. Yeah. That was his. Incredible, absolutely incredible resume.
Tell you what, who needs Google when we've got you? That's what I say. That's what I say. Very well done, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Quincy.
Quincy Jones, he's died. He's 91 years of age, and may he rest in peace.
Right, 1 day left to go of campaigning in the United States, and according to the polls, under half of people in this country are hoping for a Kamala Harris win, but believe that former President Trump will clinch it.
Meanwhile, the race in America is on a knife edge. Harris leads in 2 polls and tied in 3 others.
Well, overnight, the former President Barack Obama took aim at Donald Trump in Wisconsin. Here's what he had to say.
What I cannot understand is why anybody would think Donald Trump will shake things up in a way that is good for you. Donald Trump is not thinking about you. People think Donald Trump will improve the economy is because they watched The Apprentice. The truth is, Donald Trump was given $400 million by his daddy. That's how he got rich. And somehow his company still managed to declare bankruptcy 6 times.
Watching that with us here in the studio, Chairman of Republicans Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. Greg, good to see you. Greg, did you expect it to be this close?
I didn't think so. Remember, only in July, less than a few months ago, Trump was leading Joe Biden by, pretty significantly, comfortably in the swing states and 3 or 4 points nationally, which he'd never done before. And so I think the replacement, kicking Biden to the curb and replacing him with Kamala Harris was a good move, as it turns out. So now we have a neck-and-neck race.
Can I ask you about the comments that were being made by President Barack Obama there? And he went on to say in that speech, people think that the economy was great under Trump.
Right.
He inherited that. From me, that was my economy. He's laying claim to that.
Yeah.
But I was reading over the weekend, Liam Halligan, who, formerly of GB News, he's been writing in The Telegraph saying, if Trump wins again, this is bad for Americans and it's bad for Britons because he's going to be anti any imports from other countries, which will negatively affect us, but also will push up inflation in the country. Are Americans getting that message? Because a lot of people think economy, Trump.
Yeah, and I think I would agree that Trump is much better for the economy. Now, the Harris campaign managed to find 17 anti-Trump economists in the university circuit. No surprise that in academia you found enough people that really dislike Trump. And so they found, these 17 economists who said, oh, inflation will be worse under Trump than Kamala. Now, that is laughable. And in terms of Barack Obama saying that Trump inherited a great economy, also laughable. And you hear those talking points from a lot of Democrat pundits right now. They say, well, Trump's economy was great because he inherited it. No, that's absolutely not true. Wages went up in real terms 4% in 8 years. I don't even count the first year of Obama because it was a financial crisis. But if you look at the 7-year average, it went up 0.5% a year. Under Trump, it went up 2% a year, 8% total over 4 years. Even just in 2019, up 6.8%. Black wages were up 7.9%. Hispanic wages up 8.9%. The identity groups that the Democrats depend on actually did much better under Trump. And that's starting to get through. That's why African Americans are supporting Trump at record numbers. It's never been this close.
What's going on in Iowa then, where we've had this shock poll over the weekend, traditionally safe Republican state, an absolutely key swing state, but 3 points ahead for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and I don't know that pollster well. I'm sure she's, very. I've read anyway that she's a legit and consistent pollster. I think it's an outlier. Same day, Emerson, not exactly a Republican-leaning pollster, came out with Trump +9. So all I've heard about in the UK media the last 48 hours is the poll that had Trump down 3, and nobody's mentioned Emerson up 9.
What about this final poll by the New York Times has Trump behind Kamala in 4 critical swing states of Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, and Wisconsin?
Yeah, so the Times has Kamala with 4 out of 7. Real Clear Politics, which is the aggregator, the average, has Trump in 5 out of 7. So it just depends which poll you're looking at. Their Atlas came out with Trump 6 out of 7. So it really depends. Nate Silver's come out and said they're totally underpolling Trump. If you look at 2016 and 2020, Trump clearly outperformed the polls. They had Hillary up 3, they had Biden up 7, and ended up being record close elections. So I don't imagine this one will be much different. I would imagine it'll be really close. But if anything, Trump will outperform what the polls are suggesting, unless the pollsters miraculously fix their models and have started to interview or question Trump voters or Republican voters at a higher rate than they did in the last 2 elections.
My friend, thank you very much indeed for your take on things.
Always great to be here.
It'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting talking to you. When will we know? Wednesday, will we know? Or
maybe. I mean, if either candidate wins comfortably and surprises surprises the pollsters, then it could be early Wednesday morning. If it's really close, I don't think you'll see Pennsylvania numbers till at best Wednesday night.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
thanks very much.
Interesting.
Thank
you.
you.
Well, there's nothing progressive about turning a blind eye as men, women and children die in the Channel. That's the message from the Prime Minister.
Yes, Sir Keir Starmer will today announce that migrant smugglers are to be fast-tracked through the courts in a £150 million crackdown.
Well, that says Kemi Badenoch is also expected to announce her new shadow cabinet. That's going to happen later today ahead of her first PMQs. And I think there have been some announcements already.
Yes, well, we're going to speak to Catherine Forster, our political correspondent, who joins us this morning from Westminster. But I've heard in the last few minutes that we have 2 new joint Conservative chairmen. Tell us more.
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. That's correct. We had the Chief Whip, Rebecca Harris, appointed yesterday, and in the last hour or so, we've heard there are now joint chairs of the Conservative Party. That's Nigel Huddlestone, a big supporter of Kemi Badenoch, and Lord Dominic Johnson. We expect cabinet appointments to be made today. There will be the first meeting of Kemi Badenoch's new shadow cabinet tomorrow. 121 MPs to choose from. A very depleted bunch, the Conservatives, and of course quite a number of big beasts. Jeremy Hunt, James Cleverly, who of course went for the leadership, have already ruled themselves out. So it'll be very interesting to see who she appoints, but we do expect that very loyal supporters like Andrew Griffith might get perhaps Shadow Chancellor, or possibly Claire Coutinho or Laura Trott for that. So it'll be an interesting day, and I think a real turning of the page, because we've had these months with Rishi Sunak as acting Conservative leader. Now a new chapter for the Conservative Party, but a mountain to climb to try to make themselves electable again.
Yes, I suppose an indicator of the sort of leader that Kemi is going to be, Kemi Badenoch. Lots of challenges in terms of uniting the party. Will Robert Jenrick have a role in her shadow cabinet, for example? Perhaps even Tom Tugendhat, who also stood against her in the early stages of the contest. And as you say, a mountain to climb in terms of winning over the public, because whilst she won with the Tory membership, hugely unpopular at the moment with the British public.
Yes, she is. And of course, appealing to Conservative members and appealing to the public are two very, very different things, as we saw with Liz Truss, didn't we? We also saw that Liz Truss, when she put her cabinet together, having said she'd have a cabinet of all the talents, rewarded the loyalists, and that came back to bite her very quickly. Now, I don't think anything like that's going to happen to Kemi Badenoch, but there's not many Tory MPs, and there's enough sort of junior ministerial positions to give pretty much everybody a job if they wanted it. But I think it will be very interesting. Tom Tugendhat, I think, definitely one to watch, because of course he ran for the leadership. One of the things that was said to hold him back was the fact that he didn't have terribly much experience apart from as security minister. I would imagine that he would dearly like to be a shadow foreign secretary. Let's see what happens. Robert Jenrick, of course, pretty narrowly missed out, really, didn't he, in the end? Will Kemi Badenoch reward him with a big job? Shadow Home Secretary, perhaps, or will she do what Sir Keir Starmer did with his rival, Lisa Nandy, and put him in a much more junior role? We won't have terribly long to find out.
OK, thanks very much indeed. Appreciate it.
We appreciate hearing what you think. We run our polls off the day, and this is the one we are running today. Do you agree with Nigel Farage that Labour does not understand farmers?
Yes, we're going to be bringing you the live results throughout the day, so make sure to stay tuned. The final result will be announced later in Martin Daubney's show, and for all of our latest polls, news and how to vote, you just need to go to our gbnews.com/poll section of our website for the latest on that. But this farmers issue is all in relation to inheritance tax, and they reckon they can make 540 million a year through changing those rules, which will mean inheritance tax is set at 20% for any farm over £1 million. Does Labour get it? Does Rachel Reeves get it? She is, of course, a born and bred Londoner from Lewisham. Does she really understand issues of the countryside? What could this mean for food supply, etc., etc.?
Well, there'll be less farms. There'll be more dependence on food coming from other resources around the world, other sources. Just let us know what you think. Let's get your weather update now. Not good weather for farming, it has to be said, Jonathan Vaughtry, because it's wet in lots of places.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Welcome to your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We are into a new working week, but we're holding on to the same weather pattern that we've had for several days now. High pressure is still in charge, keeping things fairly fine and settled for all of us, but underneath this high is a widespread blanket of cloud, so it is grey, dull and drab for many of us as we do step out this morning. Most of us will manage to stay dry, but the cloud is thick enough to produce the odd spot of drizzle in places, so do just watch out for that. Temperatures are roughly going to be where we'd expect them to be for the time of year, around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But despite all this widespread cloud, there will be a lucky few that manage to see the sunshine poking through at times. One of those regions certainly is going to be parts of northwestern Scotland, where we've got the greatest chance across parts of the Highlands, maybe just into parts of Argyll and Bute as well for that sunshine to poke through. Western Northern Ireland as well, hopefully seeing a bit of brightness later on in the day, and we've also got the chance as well for western parts of Wales and also for the likes of Cornwall. Southeastern England may also see a little sunshine as well, tapping into some of the winds coming in off continental Europe, where they have much clearer skies around. That cloud, though, elsewhere is going to remain in place as we head throughout Tuesday, lowering at times, so certainly will be misty and murky around coasts and over the hills. There is also the possible of some low-level fog around as we start off on Tuesday morning. Most of us underneath that cloud, seeing temperatures only drop to around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, but where you do have some clear spells overnight, it could be a chillier start to Tuesday with certainly low single figures. As we head throughout the day, then, we'll be chasing after those sunnier breaks. Once again, northern Scotland likely to see some of the best ones, parts of southeast England as well. We will, though, hold off from this rain, so it is again going to stay largely dry across most areas. Temperatures again 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But with a southerly wind kicking in for the middle part of the week, temperatures could just climb up a little bit later on. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, Christmas is it's not far down the road now, and if you're thinking of spending, where you're going to get the money from, well, we may be the answer.
Yes, not only do we have £25,025 in cash to spend on what would be a very Merry Christmas, but we've also got shopping vouchers and a GB News goodie bag, all to be won in our giveaway.
You could win Christmas on us this year.
Should the word empire be removed from the vocabulary in Britain, removed from the King's honours, for instance?
Yeah, what would that make you then?
It would make me excellent. It's not they're going to change the E
well, we
from
knew
empire.
that already.
The order of British excellence.
Right.
I would have.
Yeah, let us know what you think about that. We'll be debating it straight after this. Don't go anywhere.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, let's speak now to Sales Director at Savills for Quinta Properties, Raquel Santos, who is live for us in Portugal. Raquel, good to see you this morning. Why are all these celebrities flocking to Portugal all of a sudden?
Yeah, I guess it's just because of basically the great lifestyle that we have, security, Portugal has kind of been a hidden, tucked away gem for quite a while that people didn't realize existed. And with the international flights that, with the American flights coming in, it's kind of been put back on the map as a country that's worth visiting and worth investing in due to the secure investments that we offer in real estate.
Raquel, is it anything to do with tax rates? Because I think capital gains tax is, I think if it's over a certain amount, you pay half of your rate, which is 28%. Capital gains on shares and cryptocurrencies is 0. Is it anything to do with that? Because over here in the UK, big storm at the moment about millionaires apparently leaving in exodus because of the mooted increases in taxes in just a few weeks.
Yeah, so obviously the alterations that are happening with the UK in terms of the tax that's being implemented on the capital gains, as you mentioned, we've definitely noticed has become a big drive, mostly on the vendor side as well, who are looking to sell because they don't want to be hit, with these higher capital gains, which is close to coming into effect.
Raquel, have you noticed then millionaires, high net worth people from the UK getting in touch with you looking to relocate?
Definitely. It's for multiple reasons, obviously, the changes that are due to come into place, obviously, and Portugal just seems to be a safe option always when things do kind of change. People opt to come into Portugal because we're quite steady, we're quite stable.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Court cases.
A presidential dropout.
Assassination attempts.
This has been a US election like no other.
And if the polls are correct, it's on a knife edge.
Tomorrow night, stay up with us as the drama unfolds and America decides their next president.
We'll discuss what it means for them, for the world, and for our special relationship. America Decides, tomorrow night from 11.
Only on GB News.
No, according to a major new biography of the King, royal officials are looking at the opportunity to drop the word empire from the British honours list, like member of the British Empire, Order of the British Empire, something like that.
Yes, this comes after some OBE recipients have allegedly spoken with the palace about getting rid of references to the UK's colonial past.
So we're asking, good move or bad move for the age-old honours system? We're joined now by historian and editor of Burke's Peerage, World Orders of Knighthood and Merit, Rafe Hadel-Mancu, and anti-racism campaigner Ken Hines.
Good morning to both of you, gentlemen. Ken, let's start with you. The word empire, a dirty word, I presume, for you. You'd like to see it removed?
Absolutely, because I am still feeling the effect of the British Empire, because at the height of the British Empire, 1913, they controlled over 412 million people. They're also, which was 23% of the total people of population at that time. Also, they controlled 24% of the total landmass in the world. We are still feeling the legacy of their rule. Particularly in the Caribbean, they're still paying reparation to the British. Part of their GDP goes towards paying off for British tax on the land, which affects us quite badly. And then we're wondering why people are taking small boats to come across, to come into the motherland, as we refer to.
What difference would it make making the Order of British Empire the Order of British Excellence then? We don't really understand.
Well, I'll tell you what, because first of all, it'd be acknowledging that at their height, it caused a lot of harm to many of us. And it continued to recognise it continued to cause harm. I know the King is having the problems. He can apologise, but about talking about reparation, because I think that's the only way forward. If we could just finish, paying slave owners just in 2022 in the Caribbean for freeing their slave, why can't we just recognise the harm he still continues to do today?
So, Rafe, would Ken change your mind on things?
No, let's deal with some facts, shall we, instead. I'm afraid that this story just really goes to show the huge levels of ignorance there is about honours and orders at number 10 Downing Street, and as this book by Robert Hardman shows, unfortunately, also at Buckingham Palace. There are very few people in the royal household who understand the Order of the British Empire, because it's probably legally impossible to change the name. When King George V established the order in 1917, the statutes made it very clear that it would be, quote, known forever thereafter as the Order of the British Empire, and by no other name. So you cannot change the name of the Order of the British Empire, firstly. Secondly, the Order of the British Empire is not exclusively British. The clue is in the name, British Empire. The order is still awarded by more than 10 other Commonwealth nations, the majority in the Caribbean. So if the majority of the nations awarding the Order of the British Empire are actually black majority nations, and they have no issue with it, in fact, people are thrilled to receive the Order of the British Empire in Antigua and Barbuda, in Grenada, in St. Kitts and the Nevis. Why on earth should we have an issue with it at all? In fact, it's quite colonial of us to try to impose a name change on this international order. And also, what an insult to the people of the Caribbean to change the name to the Order of British Excellence. In what way does Britain have anything to do with the Caribbean states?
OK, that's an interesting point. Ken, what about the name then, the Order of British Excellence, or I also heard suggested the Order of Britain and Elizabeth? Is that less offensive to you?
Well, excellent. I agree with your speaker here. Excellent doesn't really cut it for me. And what does the Elizabeth at the end of it title mean? I think they need to come up with something a bit more appropriate, which is relevant to Great Britain.
Such as what?
As for the Caribbean, they are waking up. More and more are gone republic. More and more are waking up to see that the colonial past is not what they should be looking up to as anything positive. But my thing is just simply, yes, you should have a recognition for people that do great work in Great Britain, but don't just take that to the Commonwealth, because the Commonwealth is ever shrinking, ever getting smaller as people wake up.
Is there not a danger, Ken, that, as you point out, these honours are given to people who are outstanding in their field, have made a contribution to society, wonderful acts of charity, and instead of this becoming a celebratory thing, it becomes a debate about something else altogether and kind of ruins one of the few remaining positive parts of life that we have still to celebrate?
Yes, I agree with you. And there's been some prominent black people that has refused to take the honour because of the connotation it has to black people in regards. So, but yes, I do really understand and sense that we do need to recognise people that do outstanding work. And I've got no issues with that. But as for the title, Empire, that needs to go.
Rafe?
No, I mean, for heaven's sake, the Order of the British Empire is internationally respected. We have the Rolls-Royce of honours systems in this country. The whole world regards us as having the gold standard. They love the prestige of our honours. They love the antiquity of them. They love their exotic-sounding names. We may no longer have a British Empire. There are no elephants in Denmark. Their highest order is the Order of the Elephant. But if we start going down this road, how long until we get atheists and others saying, oh, well, we shouldn't have the Order of St. Michael and St. George because that's too religious after all? The fact is the British Empire was a great force for good in the world, and people are increasingly now able to say this openly and honestly, including people like Robert Jenrick and others. Nothing has done more to lift the world out of poverty than the British Empire and capitalism together. The Caribbean nations are middle-income countries which are doing far better than any other former colonial islands in the region or states because of their British colonial inheritance.
Well, viewers and listeners, let us know what you've had to say. Our guests have had their say, and please do get in touch. And there it is. There's the email address /your say, have your say, and we will reflect that on telly this morning. Ken and Rafe, thank you both very much indeed. Much appreciated. We'll leave it there.
Up next will be the very excellent Paul Coit with all the sport.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Lancashire, the A59 is closed eastbound along Ringway in Preston after an accident. On the M1 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed northbound where a lorry shed its load at junction 42 for the M62, causing queues. In West Midlands, the A435 Ulster Road's closed southbound out of Birmingham from Druids Heath to Withell after an accident. In Northamptonshire, the A14 is closed westbound from junction 13 at Thrapston to 10 at Burton Latimer after an accident causing delays. Now in Essex, the A13 is partly blocked westbound after an accident and oil spill between the Pitsea flyover and the Five Bells interchange at Basildon, causing queues from the Sadler's Farm roundabout. On the M23 in Surrey, there's a lane closed northbound after an accident just before the M25, causing delays. And in Hampshire, the A331 is partly blocked northbound by an accident between North Camp and Mitchett.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Court cases.
A presidential dropout.
Assassination attempts.
This has been a US election like no other.
And if the polls are correct, it's on a knife edge.
Tomorrow night, stay up with us as the drama unfolds and America decides their next president.
We'll discuss what it means for them, for the world, and for our special relationship. America Decides, tomorrow night from 11.
Only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Time to go through the sports. Paul Coit is here. Before we get into the sport, Paul, because you have such a sort of librarian's knowledge of music, that's not the right phrase, but...
I'll take it.
Yeah, we're reflecting on the sad news this morning that 91-year-old Quincy Jones has passed away. And, of course, he was the mastermind not only behind so many hits for himself, but for so many hits for other people as well.
My goodness. I mean, you don't even know where to start. Starts with back in the 50s, being a band leader, involved in every big jazz name from Miles Davis right the way through to Louis Armstrong. He worked with all of them. He worked with Frank Sinatra. This was quite late on in his career. But the big stuff, the thing that everybody would know, was probably his work with Michael Jackson. Off the Wall and then Thriller. Yeah. Then Thriller, which was all down to him. And, everybody called him Q, whereas he called Michael Jackson... I always remember he called Michael Jackson Squeaky. Which is actually Eamonn's nickname for me. What are the chances? Isn't that funny? Yeah. No, but Quincy Jones, 91 years old, various films. There's some great documentaries about him. There's been about 3 or 4 really, really good ones. And he's just the life in music and the life he had right through to sort of struggles with race struggles in the 60s. And he's lived and been through everything. Yeah. And won Oscar for The Colour Purple. I didn't mention that he won Oscar for the music of that, and he produced that as well. So absolutely huge in the entertainment world. So a huge loss. 91 years old.
Any tidbits for us in sport?
Yeah, I think he was a Scunthorpe fan, Quincy Jones, but I thought I'd move to football. Manchester United won, Chelsea won. Ruud van Nistelrooy coming to the end of his tenure. Can we call it? Can't really call it a tenure, can you?
Well, he'll have 6 games or so in
charge.
Yeah.
So it's November the 11th is when Ruben Amorim comes in. So the thing is, you've got Ruud van Nistelrooy.
he was brought in by Erik ten Hag to be, he's number 2. But when a new manager comes in, what's going to happen to a legend like Ruud van Nistelrooy, Manchester United legend? He was asked yesterday.
Well, so far...
Came here to help as an assistant, as a coach, and in this bit as well as an interim for a short spell. And then, again, in any capacity, willing to help. So, in that sense, I'm open for this future. We all will be backing him and helping him to get Manchester United to where we all want it to be.
He wants to stay.
I think it does, because you've got to say, haven't you? But what do you reckon, Eamonn? Is Ruud going to start making a few calls to think, it's not going to last?
The new guy, he'll come in with his own team. He doesn't need anybody else. I think Ruud's done a really great job so far, and but then so did Ollie.
Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, and they don't want to make that mistake again. Whereas it looked like, actually, the interim's doing well, let's keep him on. So they know who the new guy is, and hopefully he'll change things around for Manchester United. Spurs beat Aston Villa 4-1. Great result for Tottenham. Yep. 1-0 down at half-time, so Spurs are looking very good. The Brazil Grand Prix was treacherous. The rain was pouring down, and I said it was like the wacky races, and it was. It was just... because, also the other link is that you've got Damon Hill that called Max Verstappen Dick Dastardly for the way that he carries on. But anyway, he won the race, and well-deserved as well. It just shows what a great driver Max Verstappen is, because in that condition, that's when it proves who is really good, who the best driver is out there. He went from 17th place in the race right the way through the lot of them.
Incredible.
Ended up winning it.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Incredible.
Wow. By the way, you want a couple more wacky races before we go?
Yeah.
Go on then. We got a couple more of these. So the wacky races. That's the Red
Baron.
Correct.
There's a sort of clue in the colour there.
Well, but even so, it was driven by Red Max. It was the Crimson Hayballer was the name. I didn't remember the name of that one. And let's go with that. We got another one.
Oh, that was the Army one.
Yes. The Army Surplus Special.
Surplus Special, as in surplus stores. Yeah.
That's right. Sergeant Blast and Private Meekley. And you know what? We could go on all day with these. You remember that. That's probably the most famous of all of them.
Is that the Anthill Mob?
That's the Anthill Mob.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No.
It was called the Bulletproof Bomb, was the name of the car. I remember the characters, but I never remember the name of the cars.
Yeah. See, that brings you back to... I had been like 8 years of age or so watching that, and Peter Perfect and Dick Dastardly and all the other characters.
And Muttley. Didn't they got their own spin-off, though? Didn't they? Catch the Pigeon. Do you remember? Dick Dastardly and Muttley, I think they got a spin-off
they did,
called Catch the Pigeon. Catch the pigeon, catch the pigeon, grab him, nab him.
Now.
That's it.
Grab him, nab him, stab him,
catch that pigeon now. That's it.
See the things that we know. We don't even know we know them.
This encyclopedic knowledge. It always ends in a tune.
But you know what? It's never any use, any of the stuff that I know. Well, maybe every
Pub quiz.
Every now and again.
Sports quiz. All right, fabulous. Quincy, thank you. Always a pleasure.
I wouldn't say that.
I would, and I'm going to go
Well,
with it.
thank you. It's nice to have you back.
No,
Sometimes
it's good to be
it's
back.
a pleasure. Don Neeson on standby and Chris Akabusi, they're going through the papers next.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The number of pubs may reach critically low levels.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing is a decline in the number of pubs in Britain, and it's fallen. This is an absolutely astonishing figure. So it's basically fallen 10% in a decade. So do our maths. It doesn't take very long for that to happen. So if that carries on, we'd have, get this, only 1,000 pubs by 2074. So the big question is what will become extinct first? The bank branch on your high street or the pub on your street corner? And this is a kind of perfect storm for landlords and landladies of, the cost of labour. We saw, I mean, remember when the energy prices were at the high, we just realised just how much energy it keeps to keep the lights on in the local boozer. Yeah. As well as, as the cost of the golden nectar itself. So, as they call it in Australia.
Well, talking about that, I was mentioning the other day to, was it my father-in-law? I said, when I first started going to the pub, I was 15,
Okay.
Half a lemonade, half a shandy.
I was nearly 16, I got half a shandy. No, we used to have Monday Club, where pints of Foster's was £1.50, and my father-in-law was saying, I went to London the other day, a pint was £8.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And when you've got those kind of prices, why wouldn't you just go down the supermarket and get 16 tinnies for £5?
So you're going all Aussie now. Put the tinnies in the esky before you have the bar.
Good day, mate. Why not?
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree, actually. I think it's concerning. A lot of people look at the high streets and they're very concerned that it's looking quite glum, to be honest. Lots of things are closing. But the reality is it's because people are not buying from the high street. They're not going to the pub, People are just deciding, what they're going to do in their spare time. Are they really going to go to the pub? Or are they going to potentially go to, David Lloyd or a Nuffield, join a gym membership? They're just looking at their expenses and just deciding, you know what, we're going to actually cut costs,
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So we've got Chris Agabussi and we've got Don Leeson, and they're some of the stories that have just jumped out at them in the papers. And one of the things that got me, Chris, is that if you're looking for a villain in a cinema now, directors are sort of caricaturing or casting friendly type characters in a scary role.
Yeah, I mean, the story in the Times is talking about the clowns and how clowns have gone from this jolly, happy-go-lucky...
to being really scary.
To being really, really scary. And, I mean, as a kid, you remember the Joker, and that wasn't really scary. The Batman Joker was just an evil guy. But it's really transformed to Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix,
and I loved it. I loved the psychological drama. And basically, they're tapping into the Jungian idea of shadow work and our base desires. And so what we look like in the front, all of our masks that we hide, actually, this shadow...
What are you hiding, Agabussi?
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about. No, it's a great survey, because it's talking about... They've done a survey of 230 horror films, I think it was, over the years, and how the villains are changing. Like, clowns are up. I think it was 90%. I think you've got it in front of you. Not up 90% in horror films now. And the other scary thing that's also going up in horror films, more popular in horror films now, is sharks and monsters that live in the sea. But not so much land-based animals. We're not getting horror films that involving bears and werewolves and things like that.
And yet we did a story not that long ago about the use of medical clowns in hospitals for children, and it being a really effective way of getting kids who are afraid of having procedures
I'd be more frightened of a clown.
But apparently, this is a thing. These are trained medics who are also clowns, and they're used in hospitals. And yet, it is the most popular form of horror in a film. So. Explain that one.
Well, I'm a big fan of Stephen King, and the film, book, and TV series, Pennywise the Clown, very scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your necklace is jangling on your...
Sorted. How scary, how spooky.
So spooky, how creepy that was.
Oh, Hitchcock has changed.
Patients could find it even harder to see a GP after Labour's national insurance hike, Dawn.
Yeah, this is just a follow-up from the stories at the weekend with our the NHS, our companies are protected from the employer national insurance hike, but most GPs in this country are run as private businesses, therefore they're not exempt. So
many GP surgeries, certainly the smaller ones, are saying we're going to struggle with this. Our wage bills are going to have to go up. We're going to have to let people go. It's expected to cost practices around £40,000 each, and many of them just saying we can't afford it. And we all know how difficult it is to get.
So the GP surgeries, they're saying basically we cannot afford the staff.
We can't, yeah, because you're going to have to pay more in national insurance contributions as employers, and because they're run as private businesses, they don't come under the umbrella of the NHS, which have been protected. Their wage bills are going to go up.
Yeah, and this is what we've been hearing from hospices and also from care homes over the weekend, that they're going to be disproportionately affected by this particular policy as well. You do think that this is, surely these are areas that should be ring-fenced away from
They really should have, Isabel. I mean, it's like, the whole we're not touching national insurance apart from employers. OK, fair enough. But the fact that they don't seem to have done an impact assessment on this with regards to the private care homes. Many of them are private, and we know the bed blocking thing, so people are having to stay in hospital because we don't have enough care homes as it is, and with GP surgeries. And if we have care homes having to close, you're going to get more people on the NHS, more people putting pressure on. It just doesn't seem to have been thought through that well. I think they're going to have to do some sort of exemption now and go back on this. Well, hopefully.
Yeah. Chris, let's talk about cladding, shall we? Fixing cladding on high-rise buildings will take until 2037. This is inside the Times, page 2.
Yeah, I mean, this is a shocking one that jumps right out at me when you think that Grenfell, 2017, and 20 years later, after I think it was 78 people losing their lives in Grenfell, that 60% of the buildings that have been cladding in the UK have still not been found, have not been even located. And you ask yourself, well, what is going on? Was Grenfell not shocking enough to get us out of our comfort? And if you own a property now that's got cladding, you can't sell it. So despite the actual danger of your home going up, you can't sell it to man or beast. So, I mean, it was just so surprising to me to think that after all the things that happened, it's going to take 20 years to get this thing sorted out. If we are lucky, I mean, I might not be around by then, but if we're lucky, we'll see closure to Grenfell 20 years after it happened. So I looked at that and think, well, what's stopping us? Where's again, we talked about the King and Queen of Spain getting pelters. I remember when it was Prime Minister May, took a long time to get down on the ground to the disaster that happened down the road. And it just seems it's just not top of mind. And again, it just seems that the common man or person, human being, feels just set aside by those who are in the power and have got the ability to do something about it.
Not being listened to, as you say. It's a situation in Spain, isn't it? That's why people are so angry.
I wonder where people are listening or watching us this morning, and if they can guess what the most popular Deliveroo option is for their part of the country, because the Times have compiled this. Yeah, does it have our area on there? Does it have London? Sorry.
Well, it does, but I mean, I think...
Oh, here we go. Apparently, Londoners order truffle chips and olives.
It says everything you need to...
More than else. I mean, I find that plausible.
In Tunbridge Wells, it is champagne and posh bread. I mean, so it's fairly predictable. Up north, it is our... gravy and chips, seems to be. But the top...
I like Kevin. Nando's, get that shit.
Well, funny you should mention that, because the top 10 favourite takeaways being delivered is our boneless chicken wings, followed by Caesar salads. I find that one hard to believe. But we mentioned this story briefly earlier on, Isabel, and you were fascinated by the cucumbers being in at number 4.
Yeah, that's the fourth most popular thing to order on Deliveroo is a cucumber.
People like their salads. People obviously love the salads in the evening.
Well, we're all getting very healthy, but also, Isabel,
number's good in gin and tonic as well. Just saying.
Oh yeah, that's it. It's a Hendrix, it's a gin and tonic.
Gin isn't mentioned on here, Isabel. Maybe they didn't do your area. But you might be interested in number 9, Isabel. Is bananas. Bananas and cucumbers are both going up.
She's naughty.
I'm just reading a list out.
Bubble tea is most popular in York.
Wait a minute, but sun cream. Eastbourne. I mean, is sun cream? Is it a dessert or is it? I didn't realise you could order something like sun.
You can literally order anything now on Deliveroo. Other delivery services are available, but this is Deliveroo service. You can order literally anything. But it's throwing up some. It's like cream tea ingredients are more common to be ordered in Scotland. which you wouldn't have thought.
No, I'd have thought that was the southwest. But
yeah,
then,
but it's maybe they've already got it and they don't need to order it on delivery. But you can order everything. So, but cucumbers are going up.
Go on.
Spiders.
Spiders.
Story. Yeah.
Giant spiders, the size of your hand.
Depends how big your hands are. I've got quite big hands.
Here.
This is a good story. Sorry, Isabel. It's just after Halloween. A decade ago, Chester Zoo released thousands of raft spiders as a species were in terminal decline. And you'll be happy to hear, Isabel, they've all been having lots of babies
Why
now.
would they release spiders the size of our hand?
Because they were dying out. So
are they native? Are they?
Yeah, yes, they are. What? Yeah, no, they're basically water spiders. They're called raft spiders.
No, even worse, they can swim. I think like snakes, they're bad enough, and then you see them in the water, and you think there's nothing sacred.
So they come up with your drain pipe, didn't they?
Oh,
and then your ablutions.
Careful on the loo tonight, Isabel. You never know.
Oh no, spiders
but it's good news. It's, you know, we've saved the species, and
great.
So there's lots of the baby spiders, but they do grow to quite a lot.
Do you like spiders?
I love spiders.
Do you?
I love spiders. Yeah, I used to have a pet spider.
Oh really?
Do you never like flinch
no.
when they start creeping? Like,
no.
You see one.
Are we still talking about spiders? No.
I save insects from spiders. I do. I see this. I've got a window pane and I see this spider.
Yeah.
And it captures. There was a lovely bumblebee in there the other day.
Oh.
I thought, no, I can't. So I had to go out of my kitchen, round the garden, get a stick and cut away the web, so the bumblebee could get away.
You save the bumblebee. My cat eats spiders. I think that's brilliant.
Oh, is that why you've got her?
Well, no, he eats everything.
Oh, he eats
okay. Mice, but spiders, I'm all for it.
When I was a little girl, I used to walk around the garden and collect all the spiders, and because I felt sorry for them, and take them indoors and put them in the bath.
Someone's got to love them.
My mum, my sister, and my dad all hated spiders, so they would.
And did you have one of those Halloween costumes that you wore all year round? The black with white face? No, anyway. Walking dread. Chris, as an athlete, more than a quarter of people are walking less than they used to.
Yeah, and especially at this time of the year, as the nights come in, people tend to walk less. And the old family walk, for example, walking around the park with your family. Do you go out walking with your family?
Did a 10-kilometre walk with both my kids at the weekend.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
all of that bonding, family bonding. And I went for a walk yesterday with my grandkids. Shakira, my daughter, came up with my 4 grandkids, and Tom, that's hubby. And the old man got ice cream with your grandkids. Yeah. It's fantastic, you laugh. And then they started scaring the old man. So, you know, when you walk, oh, boo, and you get all scared with your grandkids. So it's great bonding, great energy. But they're saying in here that some people don't even walk to the furthest they walk is their kitchen.
The longest most people walk is from their living room to their kitchen.
To the fridge.
To the fridge.
From the sofa to the fridge.
We've only got a small flat, and it would be like 4 foot.
Wow. But apparently, you know, if you do 3,000 steps 3 times a week, you will live for 3 years longer.
But what's 3,000?
We'll leave it there.
Guys.
Guys, thank you very, very much indeed. Lovely hearing from you today. Let's get an update now on your weather. Here's Jonathan Bawtry.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Welcome to your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We are into a new working week, but we're holding on to the same weather pattern that we've had for several days now. High pressure is still in charge, keeping things fairly fine and settled for all of us, but underneath this high is a widespread blanket of cloud. So it is grey, dull and drab for many of us as we do step out this morning. Most of us will manage to stay dry, but the cloud is thick enough to produce the odd spot of drizzle in places, so do just watch out for that. Temperatures are roughly going to be where we'd expect them to be for the time of year, around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But despite all this widespread cloud, there will be a lucky few that manage to see the sunshine poking through at times. One of those regions certainly is going to be parts of northwestern Scotland, where we've got the greatest chance across parts of the Highlands, maybe just into parts of Argyll and Bute as well for that sunshine to poke through. Western Northern Ireland as well, hopefully seeing a bit of brightness later on in the day, and we've also got the chance as well for western parts of Wales and also for the likes of Cornwall. Southeastern England may also see a little sunshine as well, tapping into some of the winds coming in off continental Europe where they have much clearer skies around. That cloud, though, elsewhere is going to remain in place as we head throughout Tuesday, lowering at times, so certainly will be misty and murky around coasts and over the hills. There is also the possible of some low-level fog around as we start off on Tuesday morning. Most of us underneath that cloud, seeing temperatures only drop to around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, but where you do have some clear spells overnight, it could be a chillier start to Tuesday with certainly low single figures. As we head throughout the day, then, we'll be chasing after those sunnier breaks. Once again, northern Scotland likely to see some of the best ones, parts of southeast England as well. We will, though, hold off from this rain, so it is again going to stay largely dry across most areas. Temperatures again 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But with a southerly wind kicking in for the middle part of the week, temperatures could just climb up a little bit later on. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in West Yorkshire, there's a lane closed where there's a shed load on the northbound exit at junction 42 for the M62 causing queues. In the West Midlands, the A435 Ulster Road's closed southbound out of Birmingham from Druids Heath to Withall after an accident. In Northamptonshire, the A14 is closed westbound from junction 13 at Thrapston to 10 at Burton Latimer after an accident causing delays. In Gloucestershire, the A435 Evesham Road's closed north of Cheltenham after an accident. In Essex, the A13 is partly blocked westbound with an accident and oil spill between the Pitsea flyover and Five Bells interchange at Basildon, causing queues from the Sadler's Farm roundabout. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking 20 minutes in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. On the M23 in Surrey, the inside lane's closed northbound. There's an accident just before the M25 causing queues. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
You could win Chris Good Luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
The final day of campaigning as America is set to decide on the next president of the United States.
Candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tour swing states in a final push for what's being described as a neck-and-neck election.
That's as a survey of Britons say they back Harris but believe Trump will snatch the keys to the White House.
Fury on farms. The Chancellor defends the inheritance tax raids on agricultural estates, insisting the nation can't afford to let farmers continue passing on their land.
Sir Keir Starmer is set to double border force funding as he unveils fast-track justice for people smugglers akin to that used for summer rioters. Our Home Affairs editor Mark White has the story.
Well, the number of small boat migrants has now passed 31,000 for the year so far. Many believe that a law enforcement approach alone is not going to be enough to stop this flow of people.
The new leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, is expected to appoint her new shadow cabinet shortly. This morning we spoke to Conservative MP Andrew Bowie.
She's going to be appointing people to the shadow cabinet on merit, people that she genuinely believes are best placed to do the job. Then it's going to take the best talent that we have at the top table to start delivering for the Conservative Party and indeed the country.
The Prince of Wales is set to arrive in Cape Town for the annual Earthshot Prize.
After a weekend of grey skies, does this new week offer anything brighter for us? Join me later to find out.
Hello there. On this Monday morning, we start the day and start the week here with GB News Breakfast. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast. Lots of views have been coming in throughout the morning on a whole range of topics. So thank you very much for those that have taken the time to get involved in your say. Last hour, we were debating this issue of the British Empire and whether or not empire is now a dirty word and should be removed from honours like Eamonn's OBE, and it would be an Order of British Excellence instead of, for example, an Order of the British Empire. Well, Simon says...
Not a popular demand, that, because almost everybody's against it.
Yeah, Simon says the British Empire was the greatest force for good the world has ever known, and so that most poisonous of people, the wokes, want to erase any trace of it from our honours.
Yeah. A lot of you in defence of the farmers, basically, as well, on the idea of inheritance tax. Why on earth don't they just have farmers' inheritance tax when the farm is sold, not when it's passed down to a family member? That's from Kipper.
That's an interesting point. On the issue of trying to tackle these people smugglers, Susan says, well, Starmer again playing cops and robbers with our money. He's not going to beat the gangs. Stop wasting it and get a deterrent.
OK.
So there we go.
And as regards a lot of you, Vanessa and Peter and Gerald and Ralph, all talking about if you object to the member of the British Empire, Order of the British Empire, whatever, Gerald says, empire is an accurate description. There's no reason to change it. We had an empire, which was the greatest the world had ever known. And Ralph is saying that if you don't like the term, then don't accept the medal. It's simple.
And on the issue of Kemi Badenoch being described as a white supremacist in blackface, Labour MP Dawn Butler retweeting those comments and a list of ways to cope with what they were sort of describing as goading by the people like Kemi Badenoch. She's since retweeted it, if that's a technical term. Well, June says, imagine if Farage or any of the Reform MPs, the Labour MP, said what Dawn Butler had said, what Starmer and the front row, including Lammy, would have said. They would have been shouting for them to resign. So, observation of hypocrisy there from June.
Well, with just a day to go until America heads to the polls, new data suggests just under half of people in this country are hoping that Kamala Harris will win, but believe former President Trump will take the office.
So will he? That's the big question. The race is on a knife edge. Harris is leading in 2 polls and at a tie in 3 others.
Overnight, former President Barack Obama took aim at Donald Trump. This is what he had to say.
What I cannot understand is why anybody would think Donald Trump will shake things up in a way that is good for you. Donald Trump is not thinking about you. People think Donald Trump will improve the economy is because they watched The Apprentice. The truth is, Donald Trump was given $400 million by his daddy. That's how he got rich. And somehow his company still managed to declare bankruptcy 6 times.
Well, earlier we spoke to the founding director at the UCL Centre on US Politics, Dr. Thomas Gift, for his take.
Trump and Harris offer pretty starkly different views for the future of the country, as well as foreign policy and implications for the UK. I mean, Donald Trump, more turbulence, more instability would really be placing pressure on the UK and other Western allies to increase spending on NATO, for example. Kamala Harris, a bit more kind of status quo at this point. I think she should offer more continuity in line with what the Biden administration has pursued.
What about the role of fake news in this election? It's been on the rise in elections all over the world in the last decade or so. I was reading that Russia's created 300 fake videos impersonating more than 50 major news organisations to try and sow division, suggesting that the vote is rigged. You know, how much of an impact is that going to have, and who will that play into the hands of, effectively?
Well, you're absolutely right. I think fake news, misinformation, disinformation, all of this is a major challenge for U.S. security whenever it comes to these elections. Of course, this is nothing new, 2016, 2020, now here 2024. Again, a lot of this sort of plays into how low information or low propensity voters turn out to the polls, because I mean, most of this is geared toward individuals that maybe don't have the ability to sift through and discern what's authoritative and what's not authoritative. At this point, there's probably a lot going on that we really just don't know or understand, whether that's Putin or other geopolitical adversaries. So it is a challenge. It is a problem. It's something that U.S. security apparatus has been sort of cognizant of.
Meanwhile, back home, Sir Keir Starmer will announce that migrant smugglers are set to be fast-tracked through the courts in a £150 million crackdown.
Yep, that crackdown will also see 400 investigators and border security officers armed with new counter-terror-style powers. Let's get the thoughts this morning of our Home and Security editor, Mark White. I mean, it's all very well fast-tracking them through the courts, Mark, but the prisons are full. We're releasing prisoners early. What on earth would we do with all these people smugglers?
Yeah, listen, there's nothing that I've heard in this announcement that we're getting from the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary today that is new. This £150 million, well, that's just an additional £75 million for next year on top of the £75 million for the year ahead for the Border Security Command. And in the greater scheme of things, it's not an awful lot of money, to be honest. It will pay for a few hundred extra investigators, some new technology, some personnel in other countries as they try to boost the cooperation of what will have to be an international endeavour. And that's, I think, the importance of today, is really to reiterate from the government's point of view the need for an international effort here. And that's why at the Interpol conference, the first time the UK has hosted Interpol in some 50 years, that's the message that will be coming from the Home Secretary and from the Prime Minister after Yvette Cooper has spoken. But they've got an almighty challenge on their hands in terms of the small boat numbers. We're already now at 31,000. It was 29,437 for the whole of last year. And we've still got the better part of 2 months to go, and every expectation that we'll be seeing 35, maybe even up to 40,000, depending what weather conditions are like in those coming across the channel by the end of the year.
OK, Mark, thanks very much indeed.
Kemi Badenoch is expected to announce her new shadow cabinet later today. That will be ahead of her first PMQs as Leader of the Opposition on Wednesday.
Well, we've already heard this morning that Nigel Huddleston and Lord Dominic Johnson have both been appointed joint party chairman. Let's get the latest on all of this from our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Good morning to you, Catherine. I suppose all eyes are on those top positions of Shadow Chancellor, Shadow Foreign Secretary, Shadow Home Secretary.
Yes, indeed. I think it's quite interesting that Kemi Badenoch has started with these appointments, not the sort of really high-profile ones. Yesterday, she appointed Rebecca Harris, Conservative MP, as her chief whip. Today, these joint chairs of the Conservative Party. But the big jobs, of course, who is going to be the Shadow Home Secretary, the Shadow Chancellor, the Shadow Foreign Secretary? Well, we should find out probably today, as she's going to be hosting her first Shadow Cabinet meeting tomorrow. I think it'll be really interesting. Of course, there's only 121 Conservative MPs left. There's plenty of those big beasts like Jeremy Hunt, James Cleverly, who, of course, narrowly missed out getting to the final two, who have already ruled themselves out. And I think it'll be fascinating to see, of the 6 people that ran for leadership with her, where they end up. I'm not sure that all of them, James Cleverly, we know, has ruled himself out, but I think there might be 1 or 2 others who might actually not want to serve in Kemi Badenoch's shadow cabinet. There'll be others, I think definitely would. Tom Tugendhat, perhaps, who was previously security minister, I think would dearly like to be shadow foreign secretary. We'll see whether he gets that. In terms of shadow chancellor, a very, very important role, particularly, of course, given last week's budget and the way that that has gone down with many. We expect somebody like Andrew Griffiths, who's been in the Treasury for a long time with the previous government, or possibly Claire Coutinho or Laura Trott, all of whom worked in the Treasury Department. But goodness, Kemi Badenoch has got a mountain to climb, hasn't she? Because She won with fewer votes from the Conservative membership than Rishi Sunak lost to Liz Truss by. The number of Conservative members has gone down significantly. The Parliamentary Party, the Conservative MPs, were split pretty much three ways. James Cleverly missed out very, very narrowly. So most of the Conservative MPs that she's now got to try to unify did not want her. I think it's going to be very tricky for her, but she is somebody who makes news. Lots of people think that she is the answer. There's other Conservative MPs who think that she won't lead them into the next general election.
Interesting. All right. Thanks very much, Catherine. Appreciate it.
Looking ahead to Christmas now, which is not that far away, how would you like to win your celebrations, all paid for by us this year?
£25,025 to be specific, to spend on a very Merry Christmas. Here's how it could be yours.
Tell you what we're doing next. Big talking point for us this morning, farms and inheritance tax that farmers have been lumbered with following last week's budget.
Yeah, lots of farmers really upset. And actually, I think Robert Hardman this morning reporting in the Mail saying this is the biggest upset that he's seen in the countryside since the foot and mouth outbreak. So a lot of upset. We'll be live at a farm in Lincolnshire straight after this.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Serving some of the most talked about food in Chelsea, executive head chef of Number 50 Cheney, Ian Smith, has created a range of menus with a hint of the homeland, using the finest British ingredients sourced by trusted suppliers. Ian Smith was head chef at Jason Atherton's Social Eating House and spent time in the kitchens of the Galvin brothers. Ian joins me now to tell more of the story. Tell me about Number 50 Cheney.
Yes, so we are a beautiful restaurant down in a corner of Chelsea on the Embankment with an amazing team. And we really pride ourselves on, being an affordable luxury that people, really are wanting to return to week in, week out.
What's the view from your restaurant?
We can see the Embankment, the Thames, and Albert Bridge, which is very nice.
Very
nice. Actually lit up. Very romantic.
And tell me a little bit about your philosophy. I was talking there about having a touch of the homeland, British food, seasonal food.
Yes. Yeah, I think for me, great cooking is, with simplicity on finest ingredients, cooked with simplicity, and ultimately, there to be enjoyed through... Yeah, sorry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say, it starts as a young person's business. You went into it very young, didn't you? 15?
Yes. Yeah, so I was 15. I sat in my parents' bedroom, called the Ritz, the Dorchester and Claridge's, and very luckily, a man on the end of the phone, 21 years ago, sent me on to a college course called the Specialised Chef Scholarship. 3 days later, I had a Ritz stamp letter through the post, and off me and my parents went, and luckily I got on the course.
And how old were you when you got your first responsibility, would you say?
I think the biggest responsibility in my career is today. Leading Number 50 Cheney.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Court cases.
A presidential dropout.
Assassination attempts.
This has been a US election like no other.
And if the polls are correct, it's on a knife edge.
Tomorrow night, stay up with us as the drama unfolds and America decides their next president.
We'll discuss what it means for them, for the world, and for our special relationship. America Decides, tomorrow night from 11.
Only on GB News.
Now, we've been talking about this all morning. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been defending her position on inheritance tax on farmers, despite major backlashes from the agricultural sector.
Well, she says that Britain can't afford for farmers to pass on their estates without paying inheritance tax.
But the National Farmers Union and the Country Land and Business Association have warned that the changes will herald the end of family farming in the UK.
Let's find out if that's going to be the case. We're joined by our East Midlands reporter. Will Hollis has got not only the story, but he's got a gentleman who's going to be a victim of all of this. Tell us more, Will.
Yes, well, Lincolnshire is often called the breadbasket of the UK because so much wheat and so much grain is farmed here. A lot of the farming in this part of the country is arable farming, so you won't find any animals here on Andrew Ward's farm near Leadenham. Andrew, what was your reaction to the budget last week when we heard that announcement about inheritance tax?
Well, I was watching the whole budget in the office on the television, and I must admit it was like watching a horror movie because everything that was announced is absolutely catastrophic for British farming, for family farms and general food production in the UK.
This is your farm here that you inherited, and from what I know, you plan to pass it down in the future, whenever that might be. Just describe your farm here and what that £1 million relief would mean for what your children would inherit.
Well, this farm here, we have got 550 acres that we own. We're farming another 1,000 acres that belongs to other people, so I don't have any value in that. We're just contract farming that. But of that 550 acres, to pass that down, if you look at the value at approximately £10,000 an acre, you take off the £1 million, and then you're left with £4.5 million. And to get a tax on that, to be able to have to pay that over the course of the duration of the next few years, is just not possible with the lack of profits that agriculture's in at the moment. And the problem we've got is that a farmer takes all the risk. We've had the wettest 18 months on record. We've just had a third of the farm this last harvest not growing any food at all because of the weather. And that is a huge problem for us financially to have to stomach. So if we don't make a profit and we're open to the constraints of the weather, where are the profits coming from to pay this tax? And I know we have 10 years to pay it, but the cost of everything in operating the farm with machinery, £1 million might buy you a combine and 2 tractors. And that's it. So the threshold, whoever advised the government, I would like to know, and why they set it at £1 million, I'd like to know that as well.
The Chancellor has said that they don't have any more room to allow farmers to not pay the inheritance tax. They say that they need it for running of the country, potentially for things like the NHS and public services. What's your response to that?
Well, they've said that they want to bring stability to the economy, but actually doing what they've done is exactly the opposite. Yes, as a farmer, I understand tax profits, that's fine, but taxing the means of where that profit comes from is absolutely ludicrous. And I think we also need to look at food. Do the government want us to produce food in this country, or do they want to fly it thousands of miles from abroad? Because that's what will happen if this whole tax is not reversed. It's a simple choice as that. Food security is so on a balance at the moment. We import 40% at the moment, and that will go up massively if this whole tax thing is not reversed.
You described some of the perils of farming, wet weather, poor crop yield. What is the state of farming right now, particularly for what you can make from some of the crops that you grow?
Well, if we take this crop of wheat here behind us, this has been planted about a month ago. We don't know what we're going to get for this at the end of next harvest in pounds per tonne. We don't know how many tonnes per acre we're going to get. We're not really sure how much it's going to cost to grow it. How many other industries and businesses would have something like that,
Well, we're
that
going to have
don't
to
know the
interrupt you.
costs and the structure and what they're going to get at the end of it. And this is where I say that the whole thing...
Andrew, thank you so much. Really appreciate speaking to you today here in Leadenham in Lincolnshire. Lots of big news on this story. Isabel and Eamonn.
Thanks, Will. And just to say, we've been asking a question today. Do you agree with Nigel Farage that Labour does not understand farmers?
Yes, the results are in. Yes, say 99% of you. No, you can do the maths, just 1%. We'll be bringing you more live results throughout the day, so do make sure you stay tuned for those. The final result will then be announced on Martin Daubney's show this afternoon. For our latest polls news and how to vote, just go to our website, gbnews.com/poll.
Here's Andrew and Bev to tell us what they'll be doing from 9:30 today. Good morning,
this
guys.
This farming thing is going to really escalate, in my view. There's going to be real fears over food security. Buying British farms are going to go under. They just haven't worked out. It's going to raise maximum £500 million, and they're going to jeopardise hundreds of years of farming tradition.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful. We're going to be talking about that a bit. Keir Starmer's going to be announcing during our show this morning how he's going to finally stop the boats.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, he's got some new ideas we're going to be
the gangs.
hearing about.
I've not heard that before.
Yeah. We're also going to be... It's the first time Andrew and I have been on air, of course, since Kemi Badenoch became leader of the Conservative Party on Saturday.
We can barely suppress our excitement.
Did you want Robert Jenrick?
I didn't really... I'll be honest. Bev asked me on air a few weeks ago. I said, I'm struggling to get the enthusiasm.
Andrew, you've got to admit, PMQs will be a bit more lively.
I wanted Kemi. I have to say, I wanted Kemi Badenoch.
In the end, I did want Badenoch because she will, as Boris said, she'll give vigour and fizz
and American election.
Of course, that small matter.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Busy show. Thank you.
PMQs will be lively, but not as lively as you two. They're up next. We'll see you in the morning.
Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Welcome to your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. We are into a new working week, but we're holding on to the same weather pattern that we've had for several days now. High pressure is still in charge, keeping things fairly fine and settled for all of us. But underneath this high is a widespread blanket of cloud. So it is grey, dull and drab for many of us as we do step out this morning. Most of us will manage to stay dry, but the cloud is thick enough to produce the odd spot of drizzle in places, so do just watch out for that. Temperatures are roughly going to be where we'd expect them to be for the time of year, around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But despite all this widespread cloud, there will be a lucky few that manage to see the sunshine poking through at times. One of those regions certainly is going to be parts of northwestern Scotland, where we've got the greatest chance across parts of the Highlands, maybe just into parts of Argyll and Bute as well for that sunshine to poke through. Western Northern Ireland as well, hopefully seeing a bit of brightness later on in the day, and we've also got the chance as well for western parts of Wales and also for the likes of Cornwall. Southeastern England may also see a little sunshine as well, tapping into some of the winds coming in off continental Europe where they have much clearer skies around. That cloud, though, elsewhere is going to remain in place as we head throughout Tuesday, lowering at times, so certainly will be misty and murky around coasts and over the hills. There is also the possible of some low-level fog around as we start off on Tuesday morning. Most of us underneath that cloud, seeing temperatures only drop to around 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, but where you do have some clear spells overnight, it could be a chillier start to Tuesday with certainly low single figures. As we head throughout the day, then, we'll be chasing after those sunnier breaks. Once again, northern Scotland likely to see some of the best ones, parts of southeast England as well. We will, though, hold off from this rain, so it is, again, going to stay largely dry across most areas. Temperatures, again, 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. But with a southerly wind kicking in for the middle part of the week, temperatures could just climb up a little bit later on. Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The A1 in County Down is partly blocked northbound by an accident along Hillsborough Road at Drumore, causing queues in the West Midlands. The A435 Ulster Road's closed southbound out of Birmingham from Druids Heath to Withell after an accident. In Northamptonshire, the A14 is closed westbound from junction 13 at Thrapston to 10 at Burton Latimer after an accident, with long delays towards the closure. And as you divert, in Gloucestershire, the A435 Evesham Road is closed each way between Cheltenham and Bishop's Cleeve after an